days before
The whole gang
the
is back.
triangle is completed. We do have Connor Newt, though, who has been filling in admirably the
Mm-hmm.
last several days on the show. So we are counting down. It is almost time to officially say it's football season. It's still July, so it's hard for me to say it's football season in July. But we had the SEC Media Days last week. Titans training camp will kick off Wednesday on the field. Tomorrow is the big opening press conference. We'll discuss that a little bit later in the show, but it's almost here. So, D-Mace, welcome back.
Thank you. Welcome back to you as well, Willie. This is the last Monday that we will not have like actual football. It's the last Monday. After this, after Wednesday, I think camp start Wednesday. Titans don't start camp. The veterans come in Friday, if I'm not mistaken, or is it the rookies come in Wednesday?
There is a practice of some sort on Wednesday. I'm not sure who's going to be there.
From Wednesday on, we will have tangible football to talk about. Yes.
Now, let's remind everybody that I think the Hall of Fame game is Sunday. Is that right?
Is it? Yes. God, you're right.
Can we verify that? I believe Sunday is the Hall of Fame game in Canton.
Gosh, you're right.
But let's just remind everybody, just a note before we start another football season. If you are excited right now to place some wagers on the Hall of Fame game, you might want to check yourself. I mean, do we really want to start off on that foot? Let's try to resist. But it's almost here. We're excited about that. And I have to say, our listeners have been great. It has sailed along, I think, with the topics that we've come up with and the participation we've had on the show. We're looking forward to really cranking it up. And I know once we get the kids going back to school and everybody in that fall routine, we're going to make sure we have our A game. We're geared up for another season. So let's get Connor's take on what we missed. Connor, how would you evaluate how the show went last week without both D-Mace and I? Much better than normal?
No, you were certainly missed for sure. It got a little difficult, I have to say. I obviously filling in with Adam. We had guests on every single day from the Titans, reporting on the Titans. So we had Terry McCormick, we had Nick Suss, we had Easton Freeze, and we had TD. It was a lot of fun. SEC Media Days last week was a lot of fun. A lot of storylines coming out of that. Nothing major like, oh my God, we're all going to die, but some interesting tidbits, especially from Clark Lee. We can get into some of that. But yeah, it was a fun week. I missed you guys for sure, but we did have some fun.
Well, that's good. We're glad you had fun, man. I'm sure y'all carried the show along with grace.
I appreciate it.
Y'all did a great job. We know you did.
But if you didn't, don't tell us. Just say it all went well.
Exactly. Don't worry about it.
Great, boss. It's great.
Everybody was here. Don't worry about it. But Willie, let's hear about your weekend, because I know this was a hard week for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was hard, but it was also, I tell everybody, it was therapeutic. We hit, while I was on vacation, the 1 year mark of losing Aaron. For those that might be new to town, my wife Erin passed away about a year ago from cancer. I posted about it, and so many people have reached out, and it was really heartwarming to hear from everybody. Some people did it before. Some people already knew, they remembered from last year, and they were saying, "Hey, thinking about you this week," and that it just means a lot. Just checking in on people. Like I said last year, just doing that. It's so simple, but the layers and layers of people that have surrounded us with support and love, it has been awesome. So we were up in New England, where she's from. I married into a Red Sox family. Yes. So we went to Fenway on Friday night. And let me just tell you, D-Mace, the Red Sox have been playing really well. They
unlike the
won.
Mets.
Yes, we don't even want. Look, Aaron's side of the family could care less about the Mets. In fact, they laugh at the Mets' expense. But the Red Sox, meanwhile, I think I've got this right. They're 16-2 in their last 18 games. So they're already playing well. And let me just say, on Friday night when we were all there, we had about 12 people from the family. There was absolutely zero chance that the Red Sox were going to lose that game. I mean, you could just feel it.
It was just so much energy. Aaron energy was there.
Aaron energy was all around the park. All around the park. So we had a blast. It was awesome. And we were all together. We went to some of her favorite places. We went to some places that she grew up. So it was very, very heartfelt, very, very good to have everybody together. So, a couple different generations, our kids, my nieces, nephews, Aaron's parents. So it was a great weekend for me. So I'm psyched up.
I'm sure you are.
There's sadness, but there's also, a lot of hope, a lot of moving forward.
Exactly.
A lot of, Aaron's energy is always going to be with us.
Exactly.
For sure. So
Absolutely.
How about you?
I just visit with family. Did some work while I was here. What else? Finally got a chance to see one of my buddies. I hadn't seen him in a good while. He and I, had some good conversation. But the most part it was just relaxing.
Yeah.
I just, every once in a while I tuned in, but I just wanted to get away because I knew once camp started up, it's full go because you get into football and then hockey, and it's just like a nonstop cycle with just, sports news, which is a great thing for sports radio. But I knew that I had to kind of get away from it a little bit, decompress, because I knew when I came back, as you do, and Adam will, once he gets back next week, this thing is going to start going, and it ain't going to stop until next June.
It is
for about 4 weeks.
It is important to be charged up and refreshed for football season. So with that in mind, it's a bummer that Adam is not here for this story, because boy, can you just imagine the glee that he had when he read this story? That a guy, if you follow football, you probably have seen him on some show, whether it be Pat McAfee's show or his podcast or anywhere. I mean, he was a media guy as a former GM that enjoyed the circuit, right? He was always out there giving his opinion. Michael Lombardi. And he was hired by Bill Belichick to get the North Carolina program going. And the hype, remember a year ago at this time.
Yes. Oh, my goodness.
Going into their first game, I mean, everybody was watching. And they came right down and scored in the first drive. Everybody's like, oh, Belichick. Oh, here comes North Carolina. And they got smoked that night and then ended up 4-8. It was just, it never got off the ground. And lo and behold, as they get into year two and there's a lot of optimism, it comes out today that Michael Lombardi, who is officially the general manager, and they made him out to be like, hey, he's Belichick's guy. He's going to get him the players. He's the man. It's reportedly a very high salary, but he has been put on paid administrative leave. And there is no detail coming out of the school for why this has happened right on the edge of the season. So this can't be good. And then later in the day, it is reported by Yahoo Sports that UNC's football team is being investigated by the College Sports Commission. What is the College Sports Commission compared to the NCAA?
That's what I was trying to figure out.
What are we doing? It's the entity that apparently handles compliance and enforcement of NCAA and NIL rules. I didn't know there was such a thing.
So
what happened to Tony? Does he just forward the calls to the College Sports Commission?
So what happens is
our fictitious character who sits in the NCAA office. Now that there are no rules, and we've always wondered, what does somebody in the NCAA office do now? Now apparently he doesn't have to do anything except forward to the College Sports Commission.
Well, I guess in lieu of the story coming out that, the SEC may leave the NCAA, it was like, man, you need to get your butt up and start doing some work. We need to find a case. We need to find something that we can work on. Oh, UNC. All right, let's go work on them. So that's what it is.
So
but no,
apparently there's a human resources complaint internally, a former football front office employee. And so he is on administrative leave, which means he gets paid for 30 days or so, and then we'll see. Now, one thing, I've never met Lombardi. I don't even know if we've ever had him on the show in all these years.
Man, I'm trying to think.
I don't think we have. I don't remember. But he's opinionated, right? He is a personality, which made him an interesting listen when he would come on the various shows or do his podcast. And so I don't know how that works on a day-to-day, especially working with somebody like Belichick, who is such a guy who is let's say what it is. He's a control freak. He is won a certain way. He's trying to lay his groundwork. I'm sure he was embarrassed on how it went last year. It couldn't have been an easy environment every day.
No,
so it just makes you wonder what's going on over there.
I don't know. I mean, the scrutiny started with him very early when he said UNC was going to be the 33rd NFL team.
Yes, he did.
And then him, banning, Patriot scouts from coming to practices. So he's dug himself a little hole here, and now these, whatever the allegations are, they haven't said exactly what they were, but they're enough that they got to put him on paid leave, and then we kind of see where that goes from here. But Willie, the question is, in lieu of all of this, does this further, and Connor, you can jump in too, does this further tarnishes Bill Belichick's career, legacy? We know about the Super Bowls as a head coach, and we know about the Super Bowls as a coordinator. But this last year anyway, and possibly this year, especially, it's starting off all wrong with this Lombardi stuff. Will all of this overshadow, at least those that don't know the sort of Bill Belichick that was with, the New England Patriots in their heydays? Does this tarnish his legacy moving forward?
I do think he'll always have. In fact, it's interesting perspective for me because I was in New England, right, where he is still, even though I think people are saying, well, you can't win without Brady. It's like maybe they don't think quite as highly of him as they did right when Brady left. But at the same time, he is still revered up there. I don't know that anything he could do on the college front would lessen what he did running the Patriots. I think they will never not love him up there. But I think his legacy beyond that scope, outside of the realm of the Patriots, I think is definitely lessened some. Yeah. I think you have to acknowledge the greatness. Because even if you have the greatest quarterback, it doesn't mean you're going to win. It's like the people used to talk about Phil Jackson all the time. He won the 9 titles, and you're like, well, but he had Kobe, and he had Shaq, and he had Michael Jordan.
Scotty.
But it doesn't mean that just anybody could have rolled the ball out there and won to win that many times. So,
no, you're right.
So he's got that. But North Carolina, at this stage of his career, has to be shocked at all of this that has gone on.
I think it all, for at least from the outside looking in, it all seems dysfunctional to me. If it's not one thing, it's another. And I get it. Some people say, any publicity is good publicity, but not necessarily in Brian's case. I mean, in Bill's case, I don't think, this publicity of his close friend, someone he's been aligned with for a very long time, they go way back, that this, in any way, shape, or form is good publicity for him and the university, considering how bad and how much of a just show it was. They made more news on other things than they did winning football games. So you just wonder if, heading into the season is just another reason why, especially, I think the old Bill Belichick would have worked in the old system of NCAA. Why? Because he had total control over everything, the players, movements, everything. But now that he doesn't have control over it, and really no coach does, he's finding it very difficult to achieve what he wanted to achieve for whatever reason. You thought, or at least Lombardi thought, that, okay, we go here and we're going to change this thing. And the way the landscape is now, we're going to be the 33rd team. Well, you're 133rd right now. You're not the 33rd team. You're 133rd.
I don't know if you've seen anything, Connor. I'm curious on where they sit right now. Because remember, they basically brought in a whole new roster. It was like a Deion Sanders, which worked well for Deion that first year. Of course, he knew he had Shedeur, and he knew he had Travis Hunter.
Exactly.
And Bill
had two Heisman hopefuls.
Yeah, so he knew he had that going in. But there's always unknowns when you bring in that many new guys. And it didn't go well. They have been saying that they will be a lot better this year. And we know in that league, you can probably move up quicker than you can in some leagues. But I'm curious especially with this story in the backdrop, where he sits. Do you have any thought, Connor, on what you've been hearing about UNC?
They're an interesting team because I think you make a good point that the ACC is a very winnable league. It's outside of Clemson and maybe Miami, or flip those, outside of Miami and maybe Clemson, it's pretty wide open. I'm looking at the conference projections right now. North Carolina's picked to finish 10th. So 4-4 in the conference, and they have them at 7-5 overall. So
and 7-5 would sound pretty good compared to last year.
It gets you a bowl game, I guess. You finish 4-8, your season's done in late November. So I don't know. They're interesting to me just because I feel like they have some turnover, but I never saw Bill Belichick as being a successful college coach. And maybe he can turn that around, but he always fit the pro style to me. Like his days with the Patriots, he had Brady, and that was his guy. That was his quarterback that got him over the hump. And then we learned once Brady and Belichick separated, it wasn't the same for Belichick. And it's just been kind of a downward spiral for him ever since that. So, look, I hope it's better for North Carolina's sake because their fans are pretty passionate. They're kind of like Kentucky, too, and that football is just the sport before basketball, and then they'll get into it. But I imagine they'll be better this year.
So you think Michael Jordan will not come to the opener?
Probably
year?
not. You probably won't see Michael Jordan.
You want to see all of the Carolina, faithful out there on the field.
Won't get fooled again. Like the extra people won't be coming this year. Well,
I remember that first drive. We all thought, here they come, and then TCU stomps them out, and they win like 45-10 or something like that.
Does this, or maybe it doesn't because it's a small sample size, at least over the course of the last 10 years. But does this feed into the narrative of, NFL head coaches coming to the college level and not being as successful, and college coaches going to the NFL and not being as successful?
It's hard to do. I think it illustrates that there are two different games.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's the same game, but it's very, very different winning in both, and it's hard to do both.
In every sport.
Mm-hmm. In every sport, I would agree with that. Tony Vitello, anyone?
Yeah. Bill O'Brien.
Yeah.
And then we can even go through the NBA guys. But the
only person that did it well, I think, has been a few, but Pete Carroll, he's done it well.
Yeah.
Billy Donovan did okay.
Yeah, Billy Donovan in basketball. Yeah.
It's a short list.
Yeah,
it's a
very short list.
And it has not been done in baseball by anybody. There's been very few that have even coached in both or managed in both. Mm-hmm. All right, we're broadcasting for the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. And this is Reaction Monday, which is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. When we come back, we've got a couple of Vanderbilt non-football notes that happened today that we're going to touch on. And then Connor is going to give you, if you were like Derek and I on vacation last week and not going into the nuts and bolts of SEC Media Days, Connor's going to hit some of the headlines and recap it. And then we're going to go hardcore Titans counting down to training camp. The opening press conference is tomorrow. We're going to hit on a lot of the issues and gear you up and get you ready for that daily countdown to the Titans season. So we got a big show planned for you. Turron Davenport is going to join us at 3:40. So stay tuned for that. You're listening to DVD here on 102.5 The Game. DVD continues here on 102.5 The Game. Remember, our phone and text line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025. Now, here's the musical theme today. As promised, when I left for vacation, Connor promised me a 2-day week. Music for 2 days in the week.
Okay.
So I'm starting off. I'm coming in hot.
Okay.
So I got a little game to play with you,
All right.
D-Mace. During our travels on the weekend, we had a little thing going where you find a countdown, the top songs around this time, the summer, or almost the exact date, this past week in a year. And it kind of takes you back. Hey, where was I then? How old were the kids? Where were you in your life? It's kind of a fun game to play.
Mm-hmm.
So that song right there, Party Rock, it was number one. And so we did 4 years of countdowns.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And D-Mace's task today is going to be to see if he can get the right year out of the 4. So you got a 1 in 4 shot, no matter what.
Okay.
And here are the 4 years. Or Connor, do you want to present the 4 years? Do you have them in front of you? If not, I will.
Give me one moment. I have them.
So I got to pick out one of these years.
Dude, it's 1 of 4. That song was, I believe, number 1. All of the songs we're going to play for you today were top songs that you have heard.
That was
before.
Early.
We're ready.
90s, late 80s. Late 90s, early 2000s.
I will tell you this. They're all going to be in the 2000s.
Okay.
So give him the 4 choices, Connor. It's going to be one of these 4 years.
Your choices. 2008, 2014, 2011, 2012.
Wait, no. 05 should be one, right? Are there 5 choices?
Oh, were there?
No. I believe that here are the years that
So 05.
Oh, I see how you want me to do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 2000.
Okay.
2005.
2005.
2011.
Mm-hmm.
And 2018.
Okay.
So it's one of those 4. So
2005, 11, and 18.
Straight up 2000, 05, 11,
and 18.
or 18. So which one was Party Rock?
God, I'm trying to remember. This was before I retired. So I'm gonna say,
see, that's how your mind works, right? Was I playing? Like, what are the things I can remember about that song?
That had to be 2005. I'm trying to think. Did I hear this song in Baltimore? That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
I know it's before I retired. I would say 2005. It may be 2000. What is it?
11.
2011.
It's 11? I guess, yeah. So that is the year.
July of 2011.
Yeah,
Party
that
Rock.
is the year.
Kind of a one-hit wonder, I guess, right? I don't know where these guys are now.
They had another one. They
They did?
They had
At least one more?
They had I'm Sexy and I Know It.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm sexy and I know it.
Sounds kind of the same.
And then they had a sequel to this song called Sorry for Party Rocking.
How does that sound? Is this the same beat?
No, it's different.
Oh, okay.
It was okay.
Party Rocking and Sorry for Party Rocking?
Okay. So if you want to play along on the text line, each time coming back from a break, there's going to be a song from one of those 4 years.
And don't
2000, 05, 11, or 18. Yes, don't cheat. That's no fun.
Just guess off the top of your head.
I played a lot of Uno with my niece, Breland,
Uno.
and that was the theme. Like, it's more satisfying to beat your uncle when you don't cheat. Because a lot of her aunts and uncles are going, watch out, Willie. She cheats. And she was like, ha, 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 ha. I was like, you don't want to cheat.
She didn't deny it.
Much more satisfying.
She didn't deny it.
She did laugh it off. She did laugh it off. 615-737-1025. All right. Let's get into a couple of quick Vanderbilt notes. Number one, Tim Corbin. Remember, we talked about Tim Corbin has missed the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2005. He has brought back one of his main assistants, Trent Jewett, who went off and became a head coach at Tulane, and he's been in some different places. They have brought him back, and he's going to be more or less the roster builder. He's a guy that they have brought in to try to navigate, which they have not done successfully, I think, by Tim Corbin's own admittance. They need help of the right guy to help pick out the right players who are coming and going in the transfer portal. So Trent Jewett is back. And on the basketball front, they have signed a name that will be very familiar to a lot of you, and that is Aaron Nesmith's cousin, Gabe, who was reclassified and a very, very high recruit, one of the highest that Mark Byington has had since he's been in Nashville working for the Commodores. And so Neesmith is expected to be a guy that could make an immediate impact. He's young, but he's a regular freshman age. He was going to be an older freshman next year, but he decided to reclassify and jump in there this year. So very curious to see with Tyler Tanner back in the fray how they're going to piece it together. And just like a lot of rosters now, especially in basketball, if you bring 3 guys back, that's a lot. It seems like,
especially in today's day and age where individuals are, looking for, more than likely, men and women's sports. They're looking for that bigger paycheck, more times than not, because especially it's sort of like free agency every year, because if you have a great or good sophomore year, that affords you to sort of, go to the market and, try to get whatever it is you feel you've earned. So it's especially in this day and age, it's hard to build a football team, let alone a basketball team, which we're talking about. But the central guy is Tyler Tanner and all of this. How can they surround him with more talent? And I think Byington has done that. Now, how it ultimately looks, because again, you're trying to build a roster with new guys and try to have as much success as you possibly can in such a short period of time. You got to make sure these guys and girls are all on the same page once the season starts, because you can't afford to build the chemistry in season, because before you look at it, you're going to find yourself in a position where, when they're started to seed, you might find yourself one of those teams that didn't play well at the first half of the season, but somehow you got it together, and at the end of the season, you're playing well. But because of what you did at the beginning of the season, it is hurting you at the end of the season.
So we'll see how the pieces fit. But Aaron Neesmith, remember, had a really nice run. He was like the lesser-known guy. This is his cousin, alongside of Darius Garland. And like Garland, his career was cut short at Vanderbilt because of a bad injury that knocked him out for the better part of the season. And of course, he went pro, and he's had a nice NBA career. He's played on some really good teams. So it's excited to have another Neesmith wearing a Vanderbilt jersey. So that's good. Now let's get back to the football, which is going to be front and center here today. Turron Davenport is going to join us in our next segment, but we wanted to get a little recap here because I think a lot of you are probably coming and going on your vacations, ducking those in July before school starts back up and everything. So we asked Connor Newt to give us, because this is for D. Mace's and I's benefit, we were both on vacation last week, give us the Cliff Notes. And this sounds familiar to me, Derek, because I had to go to the Cliff Notes a lot. I didn't read very efficiently. There was a lot of stuff I was supposed to read in school. I didn't read the whole thing. Go to the Cliff Notes.
I'm with you.
So
I'm with you
Connor
too.
is our Cliff Notes. Give us like the couple of things that we need to know about SEC Media Days last week.
Okay. We'll start with Vanderbilt, honestly. Clark Lee was asked a lot of questions about Diego Pavia and who's going to be the starter for quarterback and all that. He didn't directly answer those, but I think he did a good job of saying we are focused on this year's team and not last year's team. So we are going to look to improve in that matter. So I thought he did a really good job of that. Will Stein was making some headlines early in the week because they asked him, how do you think you're going to win big in Lexington and take this team to the college football playoff? And he said, because of me. Not in an arrogant way, like some people interpreted it as, but it was, I am the missing piece to what Kentucky hasn't had in a long time. Of course, Lane Kiffin, obviously making headlines. They asked him about his whole comment on how he couldn't recruit because of the racial undertones, I guess, Ole Miss had. And he went on a non sequitur about how he never thought Hulk Hogan would die, and then he did, and then never answered the question. So congratulations, Lane Kiffin.
So that sounds like a mastermind planned response to a question you knew was coming.
Yeah, it's Lane Kiffin in a nutshell.
Okay.
Now, on the other side, Pete Golding, I think, won Media Days. I think he did a great job of handling the Lane Kiffin questions, and you could tell there's some hostility there. He won't openly admit it, but they asked Kejuan Lacey, who is Ole Miss's running back, what is your relationship like with Lane Kiffin? And his answer was, he was my coach last year. So there's some hostility there. Tennessee, nothing truly stands out from SEC Media Days, but they did get David Gabriel George to commit, the running back out of Baylor. So big win for them. let's see. John Summerall got mad at someone for their phone going off, and he threatened to kick them out of the press conference, or he said, if this was my football team, you'd be kicked out of our meeting.
Right. And I saw that Dan Walken, a Vanderbilt guy who has covered college football, college sports for a long time, he said he was there and saw that it was somebody who had walked out of the room.
And it was
an
ringing
alarm.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So he actually turned somebody else's like alarm or phone, whatever it was going off. He was like, oh, that's nearby me. And he had to, because nobody could figure out who it was. Like, come on, somebody. But the person, there was an explanation for that. But the guy made a point.
And then legend from Alabama got kicked out of SEC Media Days. If you listen to, or you have listened to the Paul Feinbaum show, Legend's a frequent caller. He got kicked out. He showed up and they kicked him out.
Oh, wow.
He also, in an awkward moment that was handled very well, and I can't remember the player, but Vanderbilt had a player that was being interviewed by Paul Feinbaum, and he said he directed a question to the player who he said, part of the story was he was married, and the player was not in fact married, but he went with it smoothly. He said, well, I'm not married, but I'm married to the game.
There we go.
And he went right into a football answer. It's like perfect. Like he saved Paul Feinbaum from like a really bad.
Cedric Alexander. I think
it was Cedric Alexander.
It was awkward. I know for Paul, because when the guy said I'm married to, he was like, ooh, somebody gave me some bad info.
Yes.
God,
that hurt. And that's the worst.
But he helped Paul out, and I'm sure Paul appreciated it.
He had a teddy bear chain on too, for some reason.
Well, he's a soft.
Teddy, get it? Yeah.
Now, what the 9-game schedule? Was it big talk? I read something about Sankey talking about the 9-game schedule, and then some coaches, saying, hey, listen, we can't prove how good we are if we're only playing in SEC. I think that was Lane Kiffin, right?
I think it was Eli Drinkwitz who said that.
Yeah. So do you agree with that? And what more was said?
I do agree with it because I think strength of schedule is going to be proven in a conference like the SEC. You have conference games between Georgia and Texas, and Ole Miss and LSU are going to play, and those are top tier teams. I do. Conference, so for some of them it's easy. It's a rival. Like Kentucky will play Louisville, and Florida will play Florida State and stuff like that. But it is interesting because I'm wondering who's going to go after who. Like, will Texas try to play Northwestern or something and consider that their Power 4 game? But I do think it's interesting. Eli Drinkwitz, like you said, D-Mace kind of addressed it. He said the reason that the SEC is a better conference than the Big Ten is because of the conference schedule, because of the head-to-head matchups. And he kind of took a shot at the Big Ten and said, well, we aren't playing, Alabama A&M as one of our non-conference game, which is out of touch. They absolutely are.
We won the last national championship. I'm not going to talk about the one before that one.
Or the one before that one.
Yeah,
right?
They have won 3 in a row, but Derek doesn't like to go one of those spots.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I do think that the debate between the Big Ten and the SEC is going to be even bigger. And we will certainly hit that in the countdown to the season. I got into a heated debate the other day with some of the members of my family, Big Ten versus SEC.
Oh, Big Ten country.
Oh, yeah. Because I still see the bottom of the Big Ten as the weakness, and it helps the teams at the top because there are some weeks where it's a little easier to cruise by for a game or two. When you play Rutgers or you play Maryland, and Northwestern has been down the last couple of years, not as good as they've been. The bottom 5 or 6 of the Big Ten has not been as good as the bottom 5 or 6 of the SEC. Now, the top of the SEC has not been as dominant as the top of the Big Ten. You have to acknowledge that, even if you're an SEC snob like me. I have to acknowledge that in the debate. But I think what's going to be interesting is, can the SEC, now that everybody's in the game, even the likes of Vanderbilt, and now kind of reference Kentucky, if the worst team in the SEC could still beat a top 5 SEC team, is that going to continue to hurt their chances of getting national champions? That is only time is going to tell as people learn how to use the resources of the NIL and the arms race continues. I still am betting on the SEC long term, but I do think what happened last year to the SEC, where they beat each other up and they didn't have a team that really was at the top, I think that could happen again. And we'll see if the Big Ten has one of those juggernauts that not only is a team worthy of a national championship, but they get the benefit going into a playoff bracket of maybe they play 3 or 4 really challenging games as opposed to 6 or so, especially now with the SEC going to 9 conference games. That's a big question I have, and only time is going to tell.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't want to because listen, we're an SEC country, and I understand, like you, Willie, there are a bunch of SEC snobs, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong.
I don't apologize.
Yeah,
I'm
you
not
admit it.
I'm an SEC snob too.
Exactly.
I don't
there we go.
apologize.
Connor's a snob too. Okay, I'm not a SEC snob, but I understand that SEC is a good conference. But what do you consider the bottom half of the SEC? It's okay. Let's just take last year for example. LSU. Okay, mine is LSU. Kentucky, Florida, Auburn, Mississippi State, South Carolina, and Arkansas. Those are teams that had 5 or less wins last year. Now, what you're saying is, and I need to pull up the Big Ten, those 7 teams or 6 or 7 teams are much better than a bottom half.
The bottom Big Ten with resources. I wouldn't think the only thing is the 1-loss record, but we're going to have to table this, Derek. I'm glad I struck a chord because we're going to come back to this debate, but we got to get to TD on the other side. TD is waiting, and we are on the eve of the start of training camp for the Titans. So stay tuned. We're coming back. We'll be talking with TD in just a moment, talking Titans here on DVD. We're back here on DVD, and it is time to talk to TD. All right, D-Mace. What year was this song? This date in this year? It's either 2000, 2005, 2011, or 2018. Holla back, girl.
This was 2005.
Okay, he says 2005. Let's see if TD agrees. TD, this is what we're doing today, coming back from breaks.
You got to give him the years, though.
Yep, the years 2000, 2005, 2011, 2018. Holla back, girl.
I'm going to go,
Do you agree with Derek?
Yeah, I'm going to go 05. Yeah, I'm going to go 05.
Yeah, that is correct. All right. D-Mace is 1 for 2. TD,
I knew that was when I was playing.
TD
I knew
is
that
going to finish
sure.
with a perfect day, 1 for 1. He has got it done. Well done.
There it is.
So, TD, we got the big reporting for the Titans tomorrow. Big press conference to get things kicked off. We're finally here. So, what are you most curious about going into tomorrow? The questions that are going to be asked. We've tackled them all summer, but what do you want to hear the most tomorrow?
I want to hear about the O-line, specifically, that guard and center competition, the right guard one. So that would be the one I want to hear about the most. I definitely want to hear how they like what Cam Ward's been able to do with working with the receivers down there in Miami and in Houston too. So those are two of the main things.
Now, TD, we talked a lot about, and we're going to continue to talk about this team revamping certain positions. They've done it obviously with the wide receiver position. If you look at 2 of the 3 starters and what they're doing with their young guys, but then on the secondary side, this is sort of a revamp from what they tried to be last year. And do you think they're going to get it right this time? Because they've tried the same thing last year with Snead and those guys, and it didn't work out because of injury. Do you think they get it right this time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm curious. It's hard for me to say I think they get it right because, Cordell Flott, Alontae Taylor, these are guys that were unproven. Well, I'm not going to say unproven, but they're guys that are just on the cusp of becoming stars, right? So it's like, okay, can they take that next step here? Will the front get the pressure to help with that? And Alontae Taylor, he's still a question mark to me because, he made his mark over the last couple of years playing a lot of nickel, and he's going to play outside here. So we'll see what happens. But, I am super excited about Kevin Winston Jr. You got to be excited about him and what he brings. Tony Adams is interesting. And then I think, Amani Hooker, once he finally gets off PUP, he's another one to watch. He didn't have the best year last year, but he still has some ability.
Now, do you think Alontae Taylor will ultimately be cornerback number 1, or do you think he's going to be a starter? And that's what you brought him in here for. But do you think this thing, once camp start, there is a possibility that someone else ends up being CB1?
That's the thing I'm curious about. I want to see, because, Robert Saleh, Sauce Gardner was a little bit different for that year that they were together. But for the most part, you haven't seen, I don't recall him having guys like travel with opposing receivers. So to me, that's the ultimate sign of a number 1, you know what I mean? But we'll see how that works out. I think he has the ability to do so because he's so good in the nickel. You know what I mean? So he could go left, right, and bump inside and be all right.
Now, what do you want to see from J.C. Latham? Because this has to be the year where he takes a tremendous – he has to do what Peter Skoronski did, I believe, last year. It's to show himself worthy of that next contract and show that he can be one of the young and up-and-coming offensive linemen. What do you expect and what do you see from J.C. Latham?
Yeah, I think the first thing, obviously, is get healthy, right? But, for him, I think, a lot of it is mental. I think he has to get the mental side of it right. And like you said, he has to make his mark. Like, he has to take a huge step. When you're a top 10 pick, in 2 years, there shouldn't be question marks around your position. But we've seen him get flipped from one side to the other. And then in addition to that, right tackle was a bit of not a sore spot, but it's an area for improvement on the team. And it shouldn't be the case when you're the number 7 overall pick, just a couple years ago.
We're talking with Turron Davenport discussing the Tennessee Titans in their upcoming training camp. Starts the rookies report, Wednesday? And then the vets Friday, I believe, TD?
Well, no, the rookies reported already. They reported on
there.
Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the vets they report tomorrow. So we have the press conference. Mike Berganzi and Robert Saleh. They're going to be speaking tomorrow, and we'll see what's what.
Well, I tell you what, I must have really been on vacation because I wasn't paying.
But isn't it it's almost like Christmas got moved up a couple days in your
so
mind?
I'm really enjoying it now. But is J.C. Latham the biggest question mark on this team moving forward? Because obviously, they got some other areas that they need to improve at. But when you're talking about, long term and guys that can be cornerstones, is he the biggest question mark?
He's up there, but to me, that center situation is the biggest question mark because, I mean, like you had a late addition to the equation in Andre James, and it just so happens that he started more than every other center on the roster, right? Pat Coogan obviously is a rookie, and Austin Sloatman, 4 games last year. So that's really the question to me. Who's going to be the center, right? Because I feel like whoever's not the starter and the backup is getting released. So that's where I'm really keying in on and wondering.
Turron Davenport is with us, and Turron and me just brushing up on some of the things. I'm really curious about the defense because I saw a stat that really intrigued me. Because not only have they changed Robert Saleh to the head coach, but his defense is quite a bit different than his predecessor. For example, the stat that jumped out to me is they blitzed the 49ers last year with Robert Saleh running the defense, blitzed 23% of the time. That's the least amount of any team.
Yeah.
And we know that Denard Wilson's teams like to blitz a lot more. They like to have that deceptive, where's the rush coming from, all of that. And as a result, it's not surprising. They've changed the personnel a lot. There are probably more people in the front 7 that will be new than not new. And of course, Jeffrey Simmons is the centerpiece. So how quickly can they make that transition in your mind?
Well, I think they can make it quickly because they went ahead. And, I think that Tavondre Sweat-for Jermaine Johnson trade, put them in a good spot too. So they went ahead and made some personnel changes in order to be able to do that. So to me, that's what the main thing is. I think that's where they have to just up front, right? Because that's the biggest change. Now, obviously, you got the linebackers, you got a Mike and a Will, but it's still somewhat similar to what you saw before. So it's just having those guys that could be true hand in the dirt defensive ends as opposed to stand up rushing the passer, and I think a guy like Femi Oladejo, you look at Jalen Harrell, Jacob Martin, these are all guys that I think will comprise that rotation. Keldrick Faulk, and then you got on the inside, they stacked up. So we'll see how it works. I think personnel-wise, they geared themselves up to be able to do what they need to do.
Now, speaking of personnel, TD, outside of the obvious, Cam Ward, Tate, guys like that are going to be starters. At the end of camp, if this guy was named starter, would you be surprised? Insert any name you want.
Okay. Let's go through the positions. I'll say Jackson Slater. If he's named starter, I'll be surprised. Now, I think he's capable of it, but I'll be surprised, because I feel like Volson has the inside track, but that's another one that we're going to see. That would be the one for me.
In what you have been, I think this is another thing regarding Saleh's defense that we're going to hear a lot about. Anthony Hill, again, back to the central question, that is flipping over the defensive philosophy in a pretty radical style, going from the blitzing type of defense. You need different kinds of players. And they drafted Anthony Hill in the second round because they think he's the right guy. Do you think he's had a good enough offseason? Is the table set for him to be able to jump in there and start?
No. I would be. There you go. To answer your question, D-Mace, Anthony Hill Jr.
Oh, okay.
That would be the surprise to me.
We're tying it all together.
I'm talking about right now, not in the future. I think eventually he's going to take over. But, you're the mic, man. You're the communicator, the traffic cop. Now, he played that role solidly, at A&M. But, I think when you look at having to do that at the pro level, it's a lot different. And I just know from seeing Cedric Gray, man, like Cedric Gray was so good coming out of UNC. But I remember watching him that first week and that dude was struggling. And it wasn't because he wasn't capable. It was because he had some issues just as far as like, playing. He couldn't play fast. It was hard because you're processing everything and trying to learn, and it didn't work for him.
So this is, I guess, where we're going with all these questions. A lot of people believe that for them to make a significant improvement, especially with the youth, this is another theme we're going to hit on later in the show today. They're going to have one of the youngest rosters again. They had the most rookie snaps of any team in the league last year. All those guys are now in year 2. Is for them to be much better. I think the offense, we believe, is still going to be a work in progress. But a lot of people are really optimistic that the defense can give them a chance to be in more games, maybe win a few more. And so they have to get up to speed quicker. Is it realistic?
I mean, I think it is realistic. I think if you look at Saleh and the history of his teams, man, they've always had really good defenses. So outside of like Anthony Hill Jr., I think he's the only one that has like a really uphill battle. I think you look at Cedric Gray, he knows where he has to get better coverage. You look at Kevin Winston, coverage. You look at, the addition of the corners. Jeffrey Simmons is still there. I think they have all the makings to be a good defense from the rip, right away this year.
Last thing for you on this topic, and let's keep Jeffrey Simmons out of it, and just let's assume that Jeffrey Simmons is going to be Jeffrey Simmons. What I read a lot about Saleh is for his defense to really do what they need to do. They have not had a great pass rush in Tennessee for 5 years or so in terms of league average, and they need a rotation. He wants to rotate those guys. We've talked about this a lot during the offseason. Do they have enough guys for him to have the rotation to get the pass rush he's looking for up front?
I think they do, but the thing is they don't have like that dominant pass rusher. So Jeff Simmons, of course, but they don't have that one guy where it's like, oh damn, it's 3rd and 15. He is about to wreck the quarterback. You know what I mean? They don't have that guy. And I think that's a little bit of an issue, but they can still get a solid pass rush and just keep coming in waves. Jermaine Johnson, Jacob Martin, these are guys, 5.5 sacks, 7.5 sacks. Jalen Harrell has had 5 sacks in a season, in his career. So it's just an ongoing rush of solid guys, but they don't have like that outstanding one.
We look forward to hitting you with all these questions throughout training camp, TD, and then of course everything as it unfolds throughout the season. It's here. It's excited. D-Mace even has a 48-hour rush because it's starting 2 days before he thought he was. So he's doubly excited.
I'm good now.
This is good.
Moving up the hands of time.
TD, we'll talk to you again soon. We'll see you at the field here in the next couple of days.
All right, for sure. And hey, listen, man, I don't care what the situation is. You know what it is. Always go Mets.
LGM. Never say die. Never say die. Soto could be on the deal. It's okay. Everything's good. We're all good. All right. Turron Davenport.
Mets forever.
All right. We're coming back with more. During the 4 o'clock hour, we're going to flip over to the offensive side of the ball. We're going to talk about something that D-Mace brought up as a topic. And it's like, look, it's here. Did they screw up Cam Ward last year? Like, how bad was it? And can they recover? Have they fixed the problem going into training camp? It'll be something we talk about probably every day until we see how it goes in season number 2. Stay tuned. We're going to get into it next here on DVD. D-Base, Vingen, and Donick coming at you. Hour number 2 here on this Monday afternoon. Titans training camp eve. Report day is today. Big press conference tomorrow. On the field on Wednesday. We're excited about that. And we're broadcasting for the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. And, of course, with the Titans reporting, 102.5 The Game is going to keep you in the know with all of our shows, player interviews, latest updates on the camp as the team gets ready for the upcoming season. And it's brought to you by Tennessee Brew Works, Parman Energy, and the Music City Kickoff Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason here with you. Adam Vingen is on vacation this week. Connor Newt is here as well. And we're going to get into some serious Titan stuff this hour. And we want to hear your feedback on this because you've had all summer to stew on it. Now it's really time to get after it and see what we can find out as we count down to the sophomore season, if you will, the second year for Cam Ward. And our number is 615-737-1025. But D-Mace brought this up because D-Mace first, you can remember the name you're going to bring into this because he played as the first overall pick for a brand new team that had, kind of like the Titans, just a lot of issues that made the environment around this guy one that was very difficult to succeed in, and ultimately he never did. But you asked the question, have the Titans hurt Cam Ward so bad that it's going to remind us of a guy named David Carr?
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, for people that are maybe a little younger or don't remember who that guy is, unfortunately, that's not a good thing you don't remember because he was the first pick in the draft. But tell people your recollection of David Carr.
I mean, he got drafted by the Houston Texans. And Houston it wasn't how many years had been in the NFL at that point when he got drafted.
It was one of their first years.
Yeah,
I'll find out.
They were an infant as far as being, in the NFL. But either way, they drafted this guy, David Carr, who his brother Derek Carr played in the NFL for a good while as well, and it was a good quarterback. They drafted David Carr to be the savior of a young franchise.
That actually was their first year.
Yeah, it's their first year. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I thought it was maybe their second year. But their first inaugural season, they draft David Carr first overall, big arm, strong. He had all the measurables that, you were looking for in a quarterback. But the problem was they didn't surround him with a good roster. And he played very early in his rookie year.
I think he played 16
He started all 16. I was looking at Cam like 17, but there was one more game now. So he started 16 games without a real offensive line, without many playmakers around him. And I think at the time, I'm not sure who was the coach, but a young coach.
Dom Capers.
How long had Dom been there? I need to check that. He hadn't been there that long. Well, he was his first year. Yeah, you're right. So you're talking about a new head coach, a new quarterback, a new franchise with not much around him. And instead of, letting him sit on the sideline for a while, letting him visually watch the game and, learning the game from that standpoint, holding the clipboard, knowing what to do, what not to do, coming back and talk to the starting quarterback about what he saw, they threw him in there. And it was a utter disaster. So much so that people think that is what ultimately doomed him was that first season. I think he got sacked over 70 times.
76. Led the league.
That doesn't happen many times. And does he still have the record? He may still have the record.
I believe it's the record. If it's not, it's very, very
still
close.
Up there.
76. That's just unfathomable.
They took a young quarterback who they thought had all the talent in the world, and they put him in a position not to succeed. Again, he didn't have much around him. Offensive line was horrible. New coaching staff. Everything pointed toward this quarterback not being successful. And they didn't care. They still threw him in there. And the numbers showed it. He was bad across the board. The team was bad. And I'm just wondering. Now, I don't think the Titans were in, worse situation than the Houston Texans were because the Titans were not a new franchise. But I still believe that in some areas, maybe the offensive line and not having, many weapons on the outside. I think they did at some point, especially during the end of the season, I just think they did a more of a disservice than helping the young man, because at the beginning of the year, everything that could go wrong went wrong. That's what Newton's law theory, or
Murphy's law.
Yeah, Murphy's law.
Yeah,
there.
if anything could go wrong,
it can go. It will. And
Yeah.
that's what happened to Cam Ward. Everything that could go wrong in the first half of that year, last year, went wrong. It got a little bit better, but did they set him back too far where we're not going to see the true Cam moving forward?
David Carr, I think, would be right up there with among the biggest nightmares of picking a quarterback with the first pick. Of course,
Jamarcus Russell, I get
the
that,
ultimate,
yes.
who just, he barely even played. Like he never gave himself a chance because he couldn't get it together off the field. Carr, they used him basically as their starter for 5 years, and then they punted, and he never really was a significant player in the league after that. He went to He went to 3 other teams: Carolina, the Giants, and the 49ers. And he never was the starter again. He only started 4 more games the whole rest of his career, but they gave him 5 years in Houston. But it is a fair question to ask, would it have been better to let him sit and build the team first before you threw him to the fire? And I think that's a great parallel with what the Titans decided to do last year. And in retrospect, it's a fair question to ask in hindsight. Was it the right thing to put Cam Ward into the fire right away? And is it going to long-term benefit Cam Ward? Or is he going to be playing catch-up? Is he going to have some bad habits that even a new coaching staff and a quarterback guru that they hope Brian Daboll will be can't fix? That is going to be something we are watching very, very closely. Can he change the scouting report on Cam Ward and some of the concrete things that he struggled with his first year? And Connor brought up a good point too, is the Raiders are going to play this movie this year with Fernando Mendoza, but they have come out, at least to this point, and said that they are not going to put Mendoza in there on day one. And so that's an interesting contrast. So we'll see how that movie goes compared to what happened with Cam last year. I think there will be inevitably a comparison between those two guys. And we'll see when they decide to go ahead and put Mendoza in there. So are you worried about that as a Titans fan? At 615-737-1025. We want to hear from some people on this topic here. Because going into year 2, we know so much is riding on will there be a jump for Cam Ward from year 1 to year 2? Or did they set him back too far to where even with all the things that they've tried to fix, it's still going to be a struggle?
Yeah, because I think even with Jamarcus Russell, I think it was very quickly evident that he wasn't the guy. And I think they were ready to move on from him quicker, sooner rather than later. With David Carr, David Carr, they kept Don Capers for 2 or 3 more seasons after that. And they never got to a point where this team was good or showed that they were going to be good. Took a long time. Yeah, it took a long time for this thing. And that was after David Carr stopped being a quarterback. So I just don't I don't think the Titans are at that point with Cam Ward. I think a lot of things have changed. I think, them hiring Saleh and Daboll helps out. But I do wonder how far, is he set back, and how quickly can they get him back up to, where everybody thought he was going to be, at least at the beginning of the year, because he looked bad at the beginning of the year. And all of it wasn't him, but it didn't seem like he was getting better. It just seemed like he was just sort of in neutral, and everything around him was going wrong.
Now, when Derek and the Titans were going to town on the new Texans, and Bud Adams had a lot of fun beating up on Houston's new team, right? Because Bud Adams at the time was a hated owner who had left Houston to come to Tennessee. But they did not, as you pointed out, Derek, they didn't just change coaches every year. Dom Capers was the head coach for the first 4 years of David Carr's tenure as the quarterback. Then they went to Gary Kubiak for the 5th year, And after 1 year of Kubiak and Derek Carr, they punted and went to Matt Schaub. And that's when they started eventually to have some good seasons. It took a while for the Texans ever to get any sustained success. It wasn't until sort of the end of Kubiak and Schaub that they started to see the light, 2011. So it took almost a decade before Houston was relevant. And boy, you'd hate to think about another decade before you're going to see the Titans coming out of the darkness here. I hope it doesn't take that long, right? We all have this vision of, well, when the new stadium opens, that's the time it's going to start coming together. It'll be Cam's third season. They'll start to build the roster. They've got Carnell Tate. They're, piece by piece, they're putting it together. That's the hope. But we know it doesn't always go like that. And the early Texans, and like you said, the Titans aren't an expansion team. But let's be honest. They pulled the plug and restarted. They've changed everything. If it's not an expansion team, but it
operated like an expansion team.
A little bit.
Talk about the roster and how it was constructed.
Right. It wasn't by design, but they have sunk close to the bottom here, similar to how an expansion team would sink. So I don't think it's a crazy thing to build up. Now, you tell me if you think this is an accurate portrayal of where Cam Ward sits here and what he's got to improve on. Okay. And I'll throw these things out there. You tell me how much it's just the way he plays and how much maybe the habits were affected because he had the gasoline fire around him last year. Okay. Struggles when the first read isn't there. Is that a fair assessment? These are things that statistically can be backed up with the eye test, at least in my mind.
I think that's fair.
Now, is that
also is that's a little
being
bit
in the fire? Would that have been better if they had sat him for?
I think that would have been better if you sit him. Possibly, I think it would have been better if the personnel around him was healthy and better. So, but he does have a hand in that. Not being able to be successful after the first read. And maybe it was the offense. So I think a lot of it, is a mixture of a little bit of both. I can't say a lot of it, but this is a mixture of both. I think Cam Ward and the personnel as well.
All right. Again, the question is, would this have been better if they had waited at least a half a season or maybe even a whole season? It's happened before. Steve McNair sat for 2 seasons. Derek was a part of that.
But then we look at it and say, well, his second half was different from his first half. And had he not had his first half, then maybe if they would have threw him in there, say after the 5th or 6th or 7th game, maybe we would have just saw what we saw at the beginning. He was able to work through it.
And we can't know the answer.
Exactly.
We'll never know the answer because they did what they did. But we discussed it before they did it. All right. Second trait. Struggles on quick release throws, often too hot to handle. We saw a lot of heaters. It's a general accuracy thing. I'll take a step further. This is what I'm just reading off of what a lot of the numbers and scouting says. He doesn't trust the people to be where they're supposed to be. And he knew the coverage. He knew the protection was going to break down quick. So he got rid of a lot of throws, and he was graded very poorly on a lot of those throws. We can visualize them. Those high heaters that you're saying, well, maybe Manor or maybe Ridley could have caught it. But, man, that was coming. There wasn't a big window, and it's coming in hot.
Yeah, and I said this last year when all of this was happening. So it's not anything that I'm all of a sudden now revisionist history and I'm trying to, say something that I didn't say before. A lot of this, has to do with not having that rapport with your receivers. Did you expect Alec and DK to play as much as they did? No, because at the beginning of the season, I think the only starter was Alec, right? No, Alec wasn't even a starter.
It was
Alec. It was Alec, Ridley, and the kid Lockett. Yes, Lockett. So the other guys wasn't really meant to, play a lot. And when you're not, a lot of this is just about repetition and consistently throwing the ball at a certain space over and over and over again, especially in games, because you can do it in practice, but game time, everything seems to speed up a tad bit. So you never get a true a true assessment in practice of what it's going to look like, because everything is much faster in the game than in practice. So some of it, as I said before, has to do with him not having the reps with the guys. Then Calvin Ridley gets hurt. Then they got to bring in another receiver. So it was this shoving. Then Lockett gets traded. He gets hurt. Then he gets traded. So there were a lot of like moving parts with Cam Ward. And just when you get used to one receiver, he goes down and another one has to come in. But ultimately, it's going to be up to Cam. That's why I say I think once he got used to those guys in the second half, you started to see things look better. And I think a part of it was because now I'm throwing to these guys a lot. These are guys, Alec and DK. They were in the lineup every week after that. They didn't miss a game. So now I'm getting comfortable and used to these guys. Chigakonkwo, he was there all the time. So he got used to Chig. Why do you think Chig had a good year last year? And he was productive. Why? Because Cam got comfortable throwing the football to him. They knew one another. So I think part of that at the beginning of the season was the personnel around him, getting used to those. But then you saw in the second half how much better it was throwing the ball to those guys.
But they didn't bring Chig back. So this is the question: would they have been better off with all these chaotic things? Mm-hmm. Another one is they say he didn't take the easy stuff when it was there. He was too prone to going for it down the field, even though he didn't have great protection, he didn't have great weapons, that there were easier plays there on a lot of occasions that he didn't take. The Netflix show Quarterback documents a lot of that stuff. So the question that we're trying to gather ourselves here is, in hindsight, would it have been better to sit him like the Raiders are supposedly going to with Fernando Mendoza? Or will they benefit from having him take the growing pains, go through the fire, and hopefully come out the other side? That's what we're tackling. We got to go to the break. We want to hear from you as well. 615-737-1025. You can play Monday Morning Quarterback here. Would they have been better off sitting Cam Ward? And are you worried at all that a David Carr thing it's still in play, if you will, that they have set him back rather than set the table for a jump forward? 615-737-1025. We're coming back with more of DVD right after this.
Oh, I think I know.
All right. If you're just joining us, we're back on DVD, and Derek has to guess the year. He has 4 choices: 2000, 2005, 2011, 2018.
That's Christina Aguilera,
Yes,
right?
it is.
Yes, 2000.
Boom.
I knew that one. Bam, right there.
Well done, D-Mace. Well done.
I knew that one.
D-Mace
right
is 2 for 3 on the Shazam. And this was inspired by my listening to these countdowns all weekend. But so these are all songs that were big in the summer of one of those 4 years. And so Christina, 2000, D-Mace knows his stuff. All right. He also knows his stuff on Titans, and that's what we're talking about. Training camp gets going tomorrow, and we are talking Titans. And, of course, it's brought to you with all of our sponsor of Titans Training Camp, Tennessee Brew Works, locally brewed, community-driven, and the official craft beer of the Titans off-season coverage here on 102.5 The Game. We're talking Cam Ward, and would it have been better in hindsight? We want your opinion. 615-737-1025. Would they have been better in hindsight of sitting him as opposed to throwing him into the fire the way they did? Did he get into some bad habits? And can Brian Daboll pull him out of this hole? 615-737-1025. Let's go to the phone lines, and we want to read some texts as well. It's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We've got Bear, who is on the line with us. Bear, welcome to the show, and welcome to DVD.
All right, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what y'all saying, but I think they did the right thing by playing him because he like, you know what I'm saying? He's like a wild Mustang, man. You got, you can't put him in the pen. You got to let him out. And, because, like D-Mace was saying, man, early, it was bad. It was ugly. But, he came on late. If y'all look at it, he didn't have, I don't think he had but like one turnover in the second half. And, he had all them fumbles. He quit fumbling. He had better ball security. You know what I'm saying? He started throwing touchdowns. They ran the ball better. They helped too. And, I just think, man, he's the exact opposite of Marcus, man. Because, Marcus started out good until everybody figured out, hey, he won't throw it 20 yards. He won't do this. He won't do this. Man, let's just get up here. And then that was the end of him. Cam, I think it's the opposite. I think, he looked like he take coaching like just going by the second half of the season. So if we can get Dayball seemed like the type of guy that's a no-nonsense guy that, harness him. So I think it's easier to have him like said, a wild Mustang and pull back and then just unleash him when you have to. And but I love the show, guys, and that's all I got, man. Y'all have a great show.
All right,
Thank you, Bear. Appreciate it.
Bear feels good about it, and he made some good points. There was improvement from the first half to the second half, and you've made that point a bunch of times.
Here's what I would say, because I think whichever side of the ledger you fall on in this, we can't fully determine whether it was good to play him or not good to play him. We just know how it ended at the end of the year, and it wasn't good for the Titans in general. And then it wasn't good that your quarterback gets hurt. But we always talk about time on task, learning by doing, and sometimes it's going to look real bad. But then you have those few players or coaches that is able to, even in the bad, that is able to still grow within it. And then you sort of see at the end, on the other side, what it should look like. So Cam went through this at the beginning of the season. And maybe they should have set him. Maybe they shouldn't have. But now he can draw back. And I think he did in the first, in the second half. I think you can draw back from those first half woes or those, first quarter woes and look at it from the standpoint of, okay, now I understand what's going on. I've done it. I've been in it. Now I can be better moving forward. And I think that's what he did. Now, what if he didn't have that time on task? How would Cam Ward be viewed going into this season if they decided, okay, we don't want to play him for however game? Let's just say they didn't want to play him for the first 10 games of the season. And we just saw a small snippet, or say the first 11 games of the season. And we saw a small snippet snippet. How would we be looking at Cam coming into this season? Would we be giving him
I'll
more
be honest,
leeway?
I think it might. I think there might be more of an optimistic outlook. If he played less. I'm just.
No,
I'm
and there's nothing, and you're
and
more than likely you're right.
I was gonna give you this question. You were there. I mean, you were coming in as Steve McNair was a quarterback going in. I believe his first year starting was your rookie year, right? 97.
That was his first year full-time
starter.
Yes.
He had only started a couple games. He had been in the league for 2 years, but they famously really slowed the process down. They let him sit for almost 2 full years. What do you think, looking back on that, was the biggest benefit he got? Because you've laid out the benefits for Cam Ward of having gone through it, right? The time on task. What do you think Steve benefited the most from sitting those 2 years?
I think just how he looked at the game, how he saw the game in certain situations. Who was the quarterback in front of him? They ended up trading him. Chandler. They traded him away.
Who ended up playing in a Super Bowl a couple years
for Atlanta. Yeah. But when you're watching on the sideline, and listen, I didn't mean, what Steve meant. I didn't mean what Steve meant to the organization, meaning, listen, he was the face, he and Eddie. They wanted to make sure, like, if I didn't do well, so be it, draft another guy and throw. That wasn't the case to Steve. So what I saw was a guy that, watched certain situations and knew once he got his chance, he was going to do things different, or he was going to do things like that person in front of him did, or he saw in certain situations. But also, I would say this. I think Fisher and Les Steckel and that whole coaching, offensive coaching staff, they did a wonderful job with Steve McNair. Those years, my early years there, because even though he was the face of the franchise, he was the franchise, they put a lot of the weight on Eddie's shoulder.
Yes.
In the defense. So they brought Steve along, even as a starter, they brought him along very slowly. And he benefited from it. He led the team to a Super Bowl with Les Steckel as the offensive coordinator. So things start, or was that after Les? No, that was Les, 99. Yeah.
Les
was
Steckel.
Les was 99.
Super Bowl.
I'm trying to figure. Yeah, Les was the next following year. Les was gone. But they did a marvelous job at bringing Steve along slowly, even though he was the starting quarterback, even though he had much starting experience underneath his belt. And this was a team that was in transition when Steve became the quarterback, because their pillars were starting to be the young guys, and they were segueing away from some of these older guys that were on the team. And they were started to gravitate toward the B-Hops, who I think at that point was in his 4th or 5th year. Steve, Eddie, Chris Sanders.
Still had Bruce Matthews.
Exactly. You still had Bruce. But they were like that the young core started to be their pillars. And with that, you had a Frank Wycheck that was Mr. Reliable. So you put things in place to try not to make Steve's job as hard as it could have been. Why? Because he was still young. He was a fresh starter that 97 season. I know he had started previous games the previous year, but he was the new starter for the whole season.
One thing I've thought about that too is when you say team in transition, they literally were in transition. Yes. And so you didn't have a fan base, because the fan base was like, get out of here, Bud Adams, good riddance. We're going to get a new team. Just get out of town. We're not building you a new stadium. So there wasn't the normal, hey, we drafted this guy 3rd overall, get him in there, right? They didn't really have to deal with that at the time.
Not back then. No.
Not back then. Because the fans in Nashville, they didn't, they weren't paying much attention. They were like, are we really getting a team? I remember being like, are they really coming up here? I guess they're coming up here. But it's not like you could call a talk show in Houston and say, why aren't they playing Steve McNair? And in Nashville, people weren't engaged with the team yet. Exactly. So they weren't questioning, why are you sitting Steve McNair? I do think had they done that with Cam Ward last year, you would have had that. They would have had to shoulder that load of, why aren't you playing the 1st overall pick? You made him the 1st pick. Why aren't you playing him? And I don't know that that's that gravity some, right? As an organization, when you go out and draft a quarterback with the first pick in Vegas, it's a pretty unique market, fairly new. I wonder what that will be like for the Raiders and Mendoza, who they say they're going to sit him.
Yeah, I think had the Titans, because again, it's about not necessarily you starting that first pick in the NFL draft, that quarterback. It's not necessarily about you starting. It's when he gets out there, are you doing the things that are going to protect him? Are you bringing this thing along slow so he can not be put in positions to not succeed? Everything for Cam Ward last year should have been, how can my quarterback succeed from this play or certain moment in the game? How can he benefit from this? What am I doing?
It's a fair argument to ask the question, would they have been better off sitting him, right? In retrospect.
It could have been, but it would have been better off if they brought him along a lot slower.
Even if it's a split the difference and bring him in after the bye week or something like that, somewhere 7 or 8 games.
Yeah.
You could make an argument because it was so crazy and the whole thing with Callahan and changing the coaches. That was a tough environment.
But if you're going to be successful with a young quarterback, at least the young quarterbacks that I experienced, and listen, football has changed somewhat. And not holistically, I'm saying like how they sort of approach, it's more of an offensive type of game, than it is anything. And they want to see the quarterback out there. If you draft them first of all, we want to see you out there. But the experience that I've had with young quarterbacks, whether it was Steve or Joe, if you have to play them, make sure they have people around them that can take up the slack.
And they didn't have that.
And they didn't have it.
They didn't have that. So this is why my big thing is, as a result of all that, did he develop bad habits to where Brian Daboll is starting off at a point where he's got to fix bad habits that happen only because he played last year, and not come in with a guy like, okay, he sat for a year, he's watched, he's been working behind the scenes, and now we're going to put him into the fire? We'll never know the answer to that question. We got a lot of people on the text line and the phone line that want to get an opinion on this. Were they better off playing him through all of the chaos last year? Is he going to benefit from that experience, or did he develop bad habits and Brian Daboll takes over? What has he got to work with? 615-737-1025. We're tackling this question on the eve of training camp. Stay tuned. We're coming back with your phones and texts next on DVD. All right, let's talk about Twice Daily. Back from vacation, and the message is right on time. Hey, if you're out there, think about looking ahead to your routine when school starts back. If you're a family and you get into that routine, the kids are going to be coming out of school in the afternoon. They got practice, they got activities, they've got things, and you're going to have some busy days. Make Twice Daily and their rewards program part of that routine to take a little bit of the burden off of the craziness that happens when school starts back up. And maybe it's just as crazy in the summertime, but let's look ahead, because Twice Daily has the rewards program that gets you the benefits, the discounts, the sweepstakes, the savings, all of that stuff. You're going to get points every time you use it. So use Twice Daily and their rewards program. They're going to save money, and you're going to see all of the great things that you've got, like being able to get a pizza delivered at home, all of the other goods that they have right there in the store for you. And like I said, you're going to save money. So it's Twice Daily. Convenience and the rewards program, they're going to benefit you in the short term and the long term. It's Twice Daily. Fresh all day. The DVD continues here on 102.5 The Game. We're talking Titans as we get set for the beginning of training camp. And Reaction Monday is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. We've got a lot of phone and texts on our phone and text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. We want to hear from you. Did the Titans benefit from playing Cam Ward last year, or did they develop bad habits and they would have been better off doing what the Raiders are going to do with Fernando Mendoza, at least letting him sit at the start? And we have illustrated the cautionary tale of Derek Carr. Okay, so you heard the NSYNC song there, Derek. 2000, 05, 2011, or 2018? You're 2 for 3 so far.
That was now. Can one song be in the same year? Can I have multiple songs in the same year?
It could.
So I'd say that's 2000. What I tell? I just wanted to make sure.
This is the heyday of the Titans.
Come on,
this is
man.
after the Super Bowl. This is Justin Timberlake.
You're
Summer
previewing
of
my theme on
2000.
Wednesday.
Oh man, yes, this is
good.
This
That's
is
a good summer
Derek
right there.
is doing very, very well.
I'm probably going to go boy bands later this week.
Oh,
so
okay,
doing a little
okay.
preview there.
Oh yeah, and by the way, Connor, tell people what you got going during the 6 o'clock hour now.
I do. Yeah. Every day following this program, I will host The Six, which is a re-debut of a show we used to have, but it's mine now. So lots of fun topics. We'll talk a lot of Titans today. Dr. Cray and Nick Frazier will join me for the hour, and we'll rotate cast of characters, but very exciting.
Be great.
We're going to keep the party going.
Listen to that as I'm going home.
We're going to keep the party going.
There we go.
I like it. It's near and dear to my heart because back in the day, I used to host the 4th hour. When Plaz was done, he was out of there at 6. I would take over for an hour. Very valuable seat time for the young up-and-comer, Connor Newt. This is good stuff. 615-737-1025. Let's go to our text line driven by WilsonCounty.com. And here's the question by the texter. Did not leave his name, and that's okay. We'd like that you do. Even give a fictitious fun name. You can say you're Justin Timberlake for all we care. Say you're JT. He said, do you guys think because of how significant the contracts are for first rounders, put pressure on franchises to play players sooner? Well, that's interesting because it's actually easier to sit a guy contractually, because we talked about this a couple weeks ago, Derek. Back in the day, you had to pay the guy, and Matthew Stafford was an example, a Sam Bradford. You paid guys enormous amounts of money before they ever took a snap. Before it didn't matter whether they were going to play or not. They got the money. Now with the rookie salary cap, and you were a player and a player rep when this came into play, and I thought it was a good thing, is to have the rookie slot money. Yeah, you got to earn it. You got to earn it on the first contract.
Yeah, you're not just going to come in and automatically walk in as the number one or top paid player in the NFL or the top paid quarterback in the NFL, and you haven't even taken a snap. So, things change, and it changed for the better. And listen, you prove to me you should get these big contracts, then, and if you prove it, we're going to give it to you. I think that is, and I don't know if because of some of the things that have happened in recent years with certain quarterbacks, I'm not sure that the trend of waiting is ever going to come back. Now, I think some of it depends on Mendoza. Now you look at
how long will they wait?
You look at Love. He sat a year before he became the player,
and it was a little easier because they had a pretty good quarterback.
They had Aaron Rodgers, obviously, so you can sit. But he sat a year, and you saw what he looked like.
And Rodgers, remember, sat for a
exactly.
long time.
Rodgers sat for a year or two.
Yeah.
And that ended up working out for Aaron Rodgers, so much so that if you're just talking about pure passers, he is the greatest pure passer ever in the league.
We did this last year. We did the study, and we looked it up. We looked at research that had been done, and it wasn't a huge thing. It's not like there weren't examples to the contrary.
Exactly.
But generally speaking, the guys that sat did better, which is why we were asking, and they didn't come out and say it, but every sign pointed to them starting Cam day one, week one. Everything
you can tell by who they got their backup. I mean, come on. They wasn't looking for him to be a starter.
Funny you mentioned that. Joey from Bellevue says, can you imagine watching Brandon Allen play for 11 weeks? That would have had everybody thinking Cam Ward was Patrick Mahomes.
Exactly.
Well, and you made that point. I do wonder what it's a what if that we'll never know. And could Brandon Allen even survive? I mean, that poor guy probably would have taken a beating.
Man, hell, I mean, we saw him.
But
what he looked like when he had to come in.
There was no way they were going to be a good football team with the roster.
No,
I don't.
But they
especially with the coaching and everything like that.
Yeah, but they could have I wonder if they could have done more, because the only reason I'm saying that, because how it looked in the second half, something happened when Callahan got fired and, they had to go, McCoy, they had to go with McCoy. Something happened in there because Cam Ward looked like a different quarterback. Now, was he, a top 15? No, but he looked like a different quarterback. So whatever they were
at
doing,
least they calmed the noise down. There weren't the other circus things. Why didn't they use the timeouts and why didn't they challenge this? And he doesn't know the rules. There was a lot of other things that piled up on Callahan, and McCoy quieted that. Right?
Exactly. They kept it was almost like it was just clean. Like, if we're going to lose, we're going to lose because we're a bad team. It's not going to be because all of these outside, when I mean outside, I'm meaning plays or calls that I make as a coach and how it may affect the game. No, if it's not going to work, it's going to be because we're not a good team right now. We're not going to shoot it. We're not going to do anything that is going to shoot us in the foot. And I think they did a lot of that in the first half.
615-737-1025. We want to hear your thoughts. In retrospect, should they have sat Cam Ward? We gave you the tale of David Carr. If you can go back that far, you're saying, who's David Carr? Well, that's why we bring it up, because he was the first pick in the draft, and they gave him 5 years. He was sacked 76 times his rookie year. Cam Ward last year, 55 times. He led the league in being sacked. Would they have been better off letting him sit, letting him learn from the bench? We'll never know. 615-737-1025. Joey from Bellevue says, what should Callahan have done? His job was on the line. The backup QB was awful. It would have been even worse if they didn't play. Well, so that's sort of the other part of this. If you're Callahan and you know your job is on the line, because there were a lot of people that thought they shouldn't have even given him the second year to give him a chance to coach Cam Ward, did he have any choice in the matter? And I don't even know if we'll know the answer to this, but did Amy Adams-Strunk, who clearly fell in love with Cam Ward during the draft process, did she say, hey, you know what? If it's close, I kind of like to see the kid play. I do wonder if these things sped it along to where they really didn't have it. They really didn't even consider sitting him. And maybe they should have.
Yeah. They could have. I mean, but again, I go back to, yes, he possibly could have benefited from it. The team wouldn't have, but maybe he could have benefited from it. But I think, also he benefited from actually playing and getting knocked over the head on the field a couple of times and, having to, get himself out of situations that maybe on the sideline, if he's holding the clipboard, he wouldn't have been able to, figure out how to get out of a situation, because if he's on the sideline, he's not in that situation. So there are a lot of things that I think, whether you say Cam would have benefited if he would have sat or that he benefited because he played, I don't think either is wrong. I think what you got at the end of the season is something to build on moving forward.
Lenny says Cam Ward should be a New York Giant. Of course, that would have been the trade draft day. So that's another one, what if, that we'll never know. Sonny on our text line says, generally speaking, I think sitting is the best move, but it's easier said than done and can be hard to execute. The hardest part being finding a QB that's good enough and also willing to come. Now, this is another thing that they could have done differently. They could have not had Brandon Allen. Remember, Brandon Allen, they signed before the draft, and it was almost like, well, they're definitely going to get a quarterback now. But they didn't have to sign Brandon Allen. They could have gone and signed somebody like the Raiders. Who are the Raiders starting this year while they get Mendoza ready? Who's their guy that's going to be
Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, Kirk Cousins. They could have sat. I don't know if they could have gotten Kirk Cousins himself, but they could have gotten somebody who has played more than Brandon Allen, to where maybe there would have been at least something interesting to watch while they bided their time with Cam Ward. They could have done that. Remember, they had Matt Hasselbeck while they had Jake Locker. There are ways to do it. They had Dave Craig and Chris Chandler that we just talked about with Steve McNair. But once they decided to go with Brandon Allen, who had never held down a starting spot, they kind of backed themselves into a corner. On that, let's go to Dustin in Hopkinsville. before we end this hour, and then we move on to a different topic regarding the Titans. Dustin, welcome to the show.
Good evening, guys. Pretty much kind of started in on what I was going to say. First of all, on one stint, playing Cam Ward and Brian Callahan being the coach, I'm glad he did play the first year because it revealed Callahan cannot develop a quarterback. We needed him out of there as soon as possible. That's one phase of it, but it would have been better, and the Raiders are doing exactly what I wish we'd have done with Levis, Cam Ward, which I guess we had Tannehill still with Levis, didn't we?
With Levis, yeah.
Yes.
And in fact,
Okay.
that's sort of the other side of the argument because Levis kind of got buried and didn't get a lot of reps because they also had Malik Willis
under Vrabel.
He
had
had some moments. He did have some moments, yes.
You could say from start to end, I mean, he looked very promising. We were looking forward to the next season, and we weren't even talking about drafting a quarterback. But here's the thing: once they got Brandon Allen, and then they knew, we weren't for sure, but they knew they were drafting Cam Ward. It was from day one, he was going to play. Okay, you're not going to sit there and try to fill your seats with Brandon Allen. They should have got Kirk Cousins like the Raiders did and let the goofy dude teach this guy how to be a good quarterback. And they're two different personalities, so he's going to learn some things, you know what I'm saying? They may not be best friends, but, like, you don't have to be. Like, he could have learned, like, what not to do, what to do. Could have come in for a few games, if he gets hurt. And
I don't know that.
I think that the whole Callahan being around Cam Ward regressed him and Levis more than it really helped. And then McCoy and our special teams, Bones, I really think they're what saved us. If you remember, they would not play. I wanted to see what these rookie wide receivers had. I kept calling him out, why don't we play these guys? Why aren't we initiating these tight ends? And when Callahan left, they did that stuff, and you've seen some things take off with Ward. Nothing great, nothing terrible, but things started to develop.
Gotcha. Dustin, good phone call. We appreciate it. Cousins may not be the best example because it would have cost a lot of money. And Jared from Spring Hill brought up on our text line Sam Darnold. That would have been a different direction. That would have been a big investment. And if you were doing that, then Darnold would have had to have been your quarterback for a while. You wouldn't have drafted Cam Ward probably if you went out and tried to get Darnold. So you can't you don't draft Darnold and then have Cam Ward waiting in the wings. You would have been going in a totally different direction.
I think if you go get Darnold,
there's a happy median between Allen and a price tag like a Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I think that would be sort of somebody like Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, as we
exactly,
used to talk
that
about
are
the front
okay.
tier, these
Exactly.
quarterbacks on the front tier,
absolutely,
that could get you through.
Absolutely.
This won't be the last time we bring this up for sure, but this is what Brian Daboll inherits. Did they develop Did Ward develop bad habits that Daboll is going to have to fix before he can really get somewhere? Putting in a new offense with Wan'Dale Robinson, a healthy Calvin Ridley, and now Tate thrown in there, Carnell Tate as well. So can they make the jump from year one to year two and have everybody forget how tough it was for Cam Ward? And hopefully someday we'll look back and say, okay, surviving the craziness of the first year was a good thing.
See, this is where these new rules that the NFL has put in place in the NFLPA hurt quarterbacks like Cam Ward. Because typically after the season, you got a lot of time to spend with your quarterback. I mean, he's there all the time. We're in camp. Everything's going. You don't have that anymore. So when you have guys like Cam Ward or any one of these quarterbacks that have been successful after the rookie year, it's all about time. The time that you have with your play caller, the time that you have with other guys. That's why it was very important for me. And I've seen it with Cam and his receivers that they are out throwing the football as much as they humanly can.
All right. When we come back, we will turn our attention to another big factor on this Titans season that is about to dawn, and that is the youth of the roster. You can't get around it. When you're bad, you usually end up playing a lot of young guys. We'll hit on the factors of that and what it means coming up next on our 5 o'clock hour. This is DVD here on 102.5 The Game. D-Mace, Vingen, and Donick coming into the 5 o'clock hour here on a Monday afternoon. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Connor Newt here with you. Adam Vingen on vacation this week, recharging the batteries one more time, and then we will be full force for football season, hockey season, the fall, the school year, all of that. We are excited. We are coming to the dog days of summer. Hope everybody's had a great summer and soak it up as long as you can. But we know when football starts coming around the corner and they start hitting that practice field, it is a different time of season. That clock goes off in D-Mace's head. I know that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So
closer and closer.
Oh, yeah. So tomorrow they will have the opening press conference, and we will hash it out like we always do. We'll overanalyze it, pick apart every single sentence that's said by Mike Borgonzi and Coach Robert Saleh and all of that, because we're so excited, chomping at the bit. And then D-Mace and I will be watching practice starting on Wednesday morning, and we'll be off and running. And we are counting down. We already talked to TD. We're hitting some of the key themes. We just talked for a whole hour about Cam Ward. And today we're going to tackle something that Robert Saleh is trying to figure out. And we know the roster is not loaded. That's why they've only won 3 games each of the last 2 years. So can they make a jump? Well, let's take a look at how young the roster is. D-Mace, you were looking at some of the research, and Adam actually helped us out on this. And see, I do wonder about Adam's family. If he was caught sending the text to our text line by Bridget, his wife,
she probably slapped his hand.
Are you texting? Are you texting the guys at work?
No, honey.
No. I was finding out what time we're supposed to start our thing today.
Get that couch ready.
She slapped his hand. Put that phone down. You better not be texting those.
Is that a work-related text? We won't say anything. We won't say, well, this is supposed to be Adam Fingen, not Vingen, that sent us this text.
Fingen.
But we got a text. Yeah, it says, highest rookie snap share during the 2025 season. Next gen stats. The Titans led the league. They had the most percentage of snaps taken by rookies in the entire NFL, 26.3%. Now, the Browns were second. The Jets were fourth, the Saints sixth, and the Raiders seventh. All bad teams. Now, on the list as well, the Patriots and the Texans. So just because you play a lot of young players doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a bad team. But more often than not, 5 of the top 7 were teams that really struggled, the teams that played the most rookies. Now, all of those guys for the Titans, in theory, maybe not every single one of them, because there's probably a few rookies that won't make the team this year, right? But by and large, all those guys are now second-year guys. Cam Ward being front and center. And, of course, he probably inflates that stat some because the quarterback is in on every offensive snap. But nonetheless, now there's going to be another year where a lot of young players have to pick up the slack. So they're going to be very, very young again. It's hard to win with that many young players on your roster. So are we being realistic? I know everybody wants to see big progress. Hey, double the win total. We had the big thing. Would you bet on the Titans doubling their win total?
Yeah.
And this gave me some pause, D-Base, when I looked at that stat, at how many guys. And another example, Titans had 9 rookie starters in 2025. That was the second most in the league. Only the Browns had more. And the Browns, they were even more all in on the rebuild. Remember, they made the trade, the Travis Hunter trade. They got the extra picks. They didn't draft a quarterback right away. They did the whole goofiness with Shador and the 5 or 6, with their 15 quarterbacks on the roster
no telling
last
how
year.
many they had.
So you knew they were going to struggle. But you looked at those numbers and you brought it to our attention. Like, okay, what does this mean for a new coach in Robert Saleh?
Yeah, because when you look at a team, you try to figure out what is the best way, to construct a team. Is it, let's go more the veteran route with a young quarterback, or, should we, try to do these things where all these guys are young and try to build together? Again, my experience came from, having some young guys, but having some key veteran guys there also, whether it be, here, with the Titans, when my first couple of years, we still had some key veterans, but we had some that the roster was young. Or when when Joe Flacco's first year, you had some young guys, that were coming on, either first-year guys or second-year guys. They were young, but we had core veteran guys that had experience. And in those two situations, it worked. But we've also seen where the team's young, quarterback's young, head coach, he may have some experience or not. And for some reason, that works in some situations and it doesn't in others. You talked about the teams that were young where it did work, and you got to throw Cam Ward in there, and the Titans in there as well. So what is sort of this perfect recipe for at least giving, your team a chance to win? And I guess it varies, because we see, young teams that are doing really well. Then we see young teams that are struggling. But if you don't have enough core guys around that young roster, and you don't have a coach that knows what he's doing with the quarterback that points more toward ascending than anything else, then you're going to have a hard time winning. You just are. And the last couple of years, the Titans didn't have any one of those. They had a few veteran guys, but those guys were getting sort of pushed out in a sense, meaning traded away or not signed back. And they were bringing in these young guys, and you had a young quarterback with a first-time head coach, a first-time offensive coordinator, a first-time defensive coordinator.
It was looking back on it, it was really
a
recipe for disaster.
It's really an experiment you need to study.
Yes,
because
what not to do.
Why did they think that would work?
It's a great question.
And why did they tell the fans or allude to the fans that it would work?
And we've got to be honest. We thought both you and I thought it would be better than it was.
Exactly.
Not as bad as it was. Mm-hmm. But we gave Callahan probably too much benefit of the doubt, and it really come back to bite.
So is this the way things are now? You got a second-time head coach. You got a guy that has a lot of experience being an offensive coordinator. You have the best special teams guy, and I'm just talking about the team in its totality, but you got the best special teams guy. Your defensive coordinator is your head coach, and he knows what he's doing. So now you're in a better situation than what you were last year. And based upon these numbers, as far as, young teams and what is sort of the link of them, in regards to their success and non-success, I think what they're building now, and hopefully it works, I think they got the recipe for something good to happen during the season. Again, you had a guy that is a hell of a defensive coach. Many still believe he's a good head coach. It was just being with the Jets. I mean, how many head coaches have thrived with the Jets in the past 10 years? Not many. Last one was Rex Ryan. After that, they hadn't been good no matter who they threw in there. So you got a guy that is a second-time head coach, and again, an offensive coordinator that has a lot of experience up under his belt, and not just experience, he's been proven.
So the question that we want to ask you, the listeners, is, because it sounds good on one level, is you got one of the youngest rosters in the NFL. Boy, this exciting group of young players. But is that a good thing, or is it not a good thing? Are you worried that there's just not enough support for these young players, and the fact that these guys are going to be thrown into the fire? We just talked about what it did to Cam Ward last year. Is this going to be a good thing or not good thing as we build it out throughout the roster? Mm-hmm. Because I'm not sure I know. Here's what they have tried to do. But by the way, we'd love to hear from you. 615-737-1025. That's 615-737-1025. We want to hear from you, your reaction to that question. But here's a little more food for thought. So what has Mike Borgonzi with Robert Saleh and Brian Daboll, what have they tried to do to put around this young nucleus? Mm-hmm. Well, they went to a time-tested thing that a lot of coaches have done, mm-hmm. Bring in veterans that are familiar with what these coaches do.
Exactly.
Right?
Veterans that are still playing good football.
Well, that is what you hope.
Yes.
So they invested in looking at the FTN Almanac, and we talked to Aaron Schatz a couple of weeks ago about this. He's got a really detailed preview of them. They spent over $90 million on, as I count them up, there are about 10 or 11 players that they brought in either via free agency or trade that have experience with one of the two coaches, either Daboll or Saleh, in one of the New York teams, the Giants with Daboll or the Jets with Saleh, or Saleh's 49er defenses, or Daboll's, if you can go back to the Bills defense, but mostly Giants, right? So here's the list, just to name a few. John Franklin Myers, an obvious one. Jermaine Johnson, who they traded for T'Vondre Sweat, who's, by the way, hurt.
Yeah, PUP.
T Sweat it's off to a bad start, hamstring. Tony Adams, Solomon Torres, Jacob Martin, Michael Carter. All these guys are, for the most part, defensive guys that know the Saleh system. And that's a lot of new guys to go with all these young guys. We had a great conversation about Hill, the linebacker, who they hope is the right fit for a solid defense. But Turron doesn't think he's going to just jump in there and play. And that's an area where they actually do have a couple of guys. It's Cedric Gray and Cody Barton.
Yeah.
That can maybe at least be there for a while and let the kid grow into that role. Winston is another good example of a guy that you hope makes a jump. But can they do it with all these guys? On offense, we know about Robinson. We know about Trubisky. We know about Schlottman, who he might end up playing center. This will be a big thing that Turron told us. He thinks the competition at center will be a big one to watch to start day one of camp. Of course, they brought in Cordell Flott to play on the defense. And then the tight end Bellinger is another guy, a tight end that is more of a blocking tight end.
But hopefully they can get him.
But hopefully
more
knows
involved.
the Daboll
offense.
Exactly. Yeah.
Here's what you sort of hope happens in situations like this, because again, it's you look at certain teams and you wonder why they're more successful than others, or you look at a young team and you think like the Commanders, why did they have so much success with a young quarterback? I mean, some of it was the quarterback is just good. And then their offensive coordinator is just a hell of an offensive coordinator. But I think one of the key things were you gotta have somebody on the team. And I'm not talking about your core guys. I'm not talking about like a Jeffrey Simmons or a Calvin Ridley. But you gotta have somebody that you get unexpected production, and I mean high production from. I think, especially with a team like this, because you're bringing in all these veteran guys.
Would that help so much? Just somebody's good.
You got to have somebody
that
didn't think you was going to be good on.
And Saleh has some guys in his defense. On defense,
exactly. But you need that on offense. You need one guy that on top of the guys. That's why I said it was hard for the Titans last year, because those guys that they brought in that were playing good football the previous year, none of those guys played good football the next year with the Titans. None of them that they brought here.
It hasn't been a good return on investment
exactly
for a lot of those guys. And especially when people say, well, you brought these guys from the Giants and Jets, they've been terrible.
Exactly.
So why do you think this is going to work? Well, the Jets defenses were pretty good. And, depending what you think of Wan'Dale Robinson, there's good and bad. They paid a lot of money for him, but he should be at least an upgrade on what they have.
But you had, they go out and get Lockett. They go out and get some other players.
Lockett.
None of these guys.
Jamal Adams.
None of these guys play. None of these guys had the impact that you thought they were going to have.
Yes.
So not only did you not have somebody that like just came out of nowhere and really came on. I mean, DK did. Outside of DK, you really didn't have anybody that just hit the ground running and everything exploded outside of him. And then the people that you were counting on that you brought in as free agents, they didn't do anything. So if you're going to couple that, if you're going to marry that with a young quarterback, they got to hold their weight. Just like this year. I know you went and got Franklin Myers. I know you went and got Alante and all these other guys. But if they don't step up and play, it doesn't matter unless Cam just totally overcomes everything, because you went out purposely and identify those individuals to come in here to jumpstart the offense and the defense in particular and some of the offense. Now, if those guys don't come out and ball, again, they don't need to be all pro. It'd be great if they are. They don't need to be pro bowlers. It'd be great if they are, even though that's kind of a sham anyway. They just need to come out and be a net positive for this team at the end of the year. They've had too many negatives the last couple of years.
Let's put it this way. A lot is going to have to go right when you have a young roster and you're trying to build around it with Jeffrey Simmons, who you know is really good. Mm-hmm. And then we had this exercise before. There's not a lot that is there on the foundation, right? Maybe Skoronski.
There's only two guys.
There's just not a lot of guys that you can build around. All of these really young first-year guys, second-year guys. It's not a great recipe. So much has to fall into place. Let's take a break on that. We want to get some reaction. Then Derek is chomping at the bit to keep after this. Football season is coming. 615-737-1025. This may be just a little bit of a reality check on the eve of training camp. Are we wishful thinking here that this team could really make a jump even to 6 or 7 wins? I've heard people talk about 8, 9 wins. I don't know. Hope springs eternal at this time of year. Everybody's undefeated. But what do you think? They're going to be one of the youngest teams in the league. They have patchworked with free agents again. They've got a very young quarterback. Can they make it work? 615-737-1025. We're back with more after this on DVD. All right, D-Mace. Cardi B, Bad Bunny. What year? 2000, 2005, 2011, 2018.
This 2018. Yeah, this is
D-Mace.
as soon as you said Bad Bunny, I'm just like, this is
that was a softball.
Yeah, that was a softball. You lobbed that one up for me. Anybody would have figured that one out, Willie. Come on.
I'm just checking. I want you to do well.
Connor was like, "Oh,
that's my job is to make you look good."
This is my era.
Exactly.
I'm not sure.
Connor knew what that was.
But I was actually listening to that countdown. Our musical theme today is songs that were big in the summer of these years. That was a high-powered hit. Cardi B in the top 10 in July of 2018. She probably had 4 or 5, at least either her main song or she was a part of the song she came in. She was like in 4 or 5 of the top 10. It was just Cardi B. She was everywhere.
It was the summer of Cardi.
It was a summer of Cardi. And Bad Bunny was just kind of a up-and-comer at that point. Now he's, of course, at halftime of the Super Bowl. Where was he then? The 2018. D-Mace, he's only missed one. He's only missed one so far.
Yeah,
still one more. Still one more to go. All right, getting back to our Tennessee Titans off-season discussion, our training camp coverage presented by Tennessee Brew Works, Parman Energy, and the Music City kickoff game. Parman Energy, your one-stop petroleum solution. Visit parmanenergy.com. Okay, we're talking about the youth of the Titans roster, and we know that the veterans, when you start listing the best players on the team veteran-wise, it's a list where it has you going, I don't know. Are we kidding ourselves here that they're going to make a big jump here with Robert Saleh there? It is a tall order, I have to say. I can convince myself. I was this morning thinking about this topic. I'm thinking, are they really going to win 6 or 7? I made the bet when we had the thing with Adam that they would double their win total to 6. I think 6 was realistic, but now that I'm thinking about this, I'm second guessing myself a little bit.
I don't think this causes me to second guess. What it does is causes me to, look at it from the standpoint of hopefully the Titans have learned from their own lessons of last year and the year prior and the year prior to that, listen, if you're going to rebuild this team in a sense, because that's essentially what you're doing this has been a rebuilding. Last year I thought after a while was a rebuild, because once they started letting go or releasing or trading some of these veterans, you can't help but think, okay, they're getting ready to start over. And then going into this season, you are looking at a team that is more so, in a sense, resembles a rebuild team. Not to say they won't have success this year, but they more resemble a rebuild team than a team that is entrenched with veteran guys that are ready to win.
It almost seems like a spiral, right? They keep spiraling. They are forced to have to patchwork with a bunch of free agent throwing it out just to try to patchwork things until they can build a nucleus. So we'll see what all that means with Robert Saleh. We want to hear from you. What are your expectations, and what do you think about just the youth that they have? Does this spell another struggle? Or can they make a jump? 615-737-1025. Our phone and text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dylan says, Willie given Cardi B analysis is exactly what I didn't know I needed today. Hey, Dylan, I aim to please.
There you go.
You never know what you're going to hear on this show.
I never know what you need to know.
I'm breaking down Cardi B today. I'm really not. Now I need special glasses to see our caller screen. It's like, you've had the special glasses. You can read the code.
Yeah.
Like Bond.
Like Bond. All right, so I forget who's on the line.
It's Adam and Portland.
How could I forget it?
Adam.
Adam, welcome to the show. 615-737-1025. Adam, what do you got?
Yeah, so I don't think you could have it both ways. I think if you think that Callahan was the dumbest coach in history, which I do, then you have to think that you have to be excited about the players you have. Like, they were held back. Imagine your kid is in 3rd grade and they had the dumbest person in the world come in and teach them 3rd grade. They fail all the tests. And then you're like, all right, what'd you learn, man? It's your fault. Like, I had the dumbest guy in the world teaching me. What do you think I thought? Anyway, so you get a real teacher in there that can teach, and these guys should be all right, man. Like, I feel pretty comfortable to say that I trust Robert Saleh 100 times more than I trust Callahan, and we all kind of saw it coming. Callahan got to go because it was his turn. That was it. Nobody said he was going to be awesome at this. The dude literally talked about the elbow and the 2 feet thing. He didn't know the rules, and he was our head coach. Ooh. Think of that, dude. Like, these guys were held back. So I'm saying, I don't think you could blame the youth think you could look at that as like an exciting thing. These guys we're actually going to get a chance to see them a year of struggles under name 3 dudes that were dumber than Callahan at head coach. You could do that, dude. Give me one redeeming quality. If you could do that, dude, then I'll stop talking about it. But I think he was the dumbest coach ever. But that's just me.
Okay,
thank you.
So, I mean, this is going to be at the center, I think, of the debate of what can the new coaching staff do to pull out the best in these young players. It's speed up the development. Player development is going to be something that it will be very, very important, even beyond the number of wins. It's are they building a nucleus of young players that they can build around?
I think everything with a quarterback, I think it has to be every player, more so just the quarterback. But I think the building, the team, everything that you're doing has to be conducive for winning. And especially when you have a young team and a young quarterback. If what you're doing isn't conducive to winning, then you're going to make whatever problem there is even worse. And we saw it firsthand. That year, last year, wasn't conducive for a guy. As you started to get into it and you started to see where this thing was going with Cam and Callahan, you almost had to think this is not conducive to good football. Nowhere, in no way, no shape, no how is what's going on conducive for football. One of the coaches, one of the things I think coaches are tasked to do is make sure the environment you are in is conducive to winning. That's why when you saw certain guys being released and traded, Borgonzi was trying to get the building conducive to winning. He was trying to remove some things that he thought was contrary to what they believed inside of that building. If you can't make the building in the locker room and the practice field and the game surface conducive to winning, especially to your young quarterback, you're not going to win. And that's what happened last year.
That's something I know we're going to tackle during the training camp is can they build a culture? This is one of the reasons they traded T'Vondre Sweat and made some of the moves as they did. They want to build something that collectively will make everybody better. And it's easier said than done, right? It sounds like, oh yeah, duh, you want to do that, but not everybody can do it. It's not easy, but hopefully that will be a strength of Saleh. Brian texts and says, I hope I'm wrong, but I see 5 wins, but he'll be okay with that. Anything less will be disappointment, and any more would be a nice surprise. With the unknown of Cam plus the offensive line, it's really hard to say. The offensive line, of course, show me a team that has a bad offensive line, and I'll show you a team that's going to struggle. And we've seen that firsthand, right? That the offensive line's got to get better. And when we talked to TD, Turron Davenport, earlier today, that is something he circled right off the bat, is what's going on in the interior of the offensive line. Have they made improvements there? And we won't know for a while.
And that points to, things being conducive for one, your team, and then two, and frankly, more importantly, is it conducive to your quarterback being able to go out there and do the job that you have drafted him to do? And if you can't answer yes to that, then again, if you show me a team that isn't, their environment isn't conducive to winning, I'll show you a losing team. I can show you a losing team. And the Titans have been that. Not to say that, there were bad guys in the locker room, because I'm sure there wasn't. But when you're talking about taking a team that's been sagging the last, 4 or 5 years, there has to be a change within the building. You have to make sure moving forward, especially when you've just spent, your first overall pick on a quarterback, and then the next following year, you spent your 4th overall pick on a wide receiver. You better make sure heading into the season that this team is more geared toward winning than it's not, because we've seen what it looks like when they're not.
All right, let's go. Oh, by the way, we have another quick text. News flash. This is an unnamed texter. The Titans are trash. Same old song and dance. They're always young. They're always something. FYI, the offensive line will be worse. this year. If the offensive line is worse this year than it has been the last 2 years,
I'm not gonna.
I shudder to think.
Hold on. I'm not gonna say it can't get worse because the last time we said it can't get worse, it got worse.
I want to say by the end of last year, I felt like there was at least a rock bottom, and they're starting to move in the right direction, but they've got a long way to go. All right, let's go to John on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. John, welcome into DVD.
Hey, I was wondering with that conversation you had about Callahan and Ward, has there ever been success in the NFL with a first-year head coach, a new head coach, and a first-round overall draft pick and quarterback such as Cam Ward ever really had success together in the NFL?
That is a really good question. It would
thinking,
take a little research.
Jaden Daniels wasn't the first overall pick. He was what, third, second?
I think third for Daniels.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think. A first overall pick that had immediately
was Troy Aikman's
success?
first year, Jimmy Johnson's first year?
No, Troy didn't have immediate success when he.
Oh no, they were awful.
Yeah,
but
awful.
I think though that Jimmy Johnson was in his first year when they drafted Aikman. I think, if my memory serves. Now it took a couple years.
Did he
but
get there the year before
Aikman
Aikman got there? I mean, Aikman got drafted the year before. Coach got there.
Yeah. Let's look. And
because I don't know. I'm trying to figure out just off my head. Has there ever a first pick overall with a first time or a new head coach?
Aikman was the first overall pick of the 89 draft. And he, in his first year, famously went 0-11.
Yeah.
As the quarterback.
So they didn't have
89.
success.
And Jimmy Johnson, that was Jimmy Johnson's first year.
Oh, so it was first year quarterback.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So we know they came
didn't
through
have success.
They got through the fire.
Yes.
But they were 1-15 the first year.
Yeah.
And Troy Aikman survived. So history shows we got at least one.
Yeah.
that they got through it.
But had success on the other side, or you talking about having success that year?
Well, that year, now he was also not just talking about a first year quarterback. So it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. Because Saleh has been a head coach and Cam Ward has a year under his belt. So it's not quite the same thing as Jimmy Johnson, who had come out of college and Troy Aikman had just made the jump.
Well, we looked at Don Capers and David Carr. They didn't have success.
That didn't go well. That did
so
not go well.
I'm sure there are instances or situations that
it's a good question, though.
They have been successful, but it hadn't been many, at least not in the past 10, 15 years.
Last one before we have to move on to our next topic. Not many number one picks have really worked out at quarterback at all. Well, I don't know about that. There have been some that have worked. I mean, Peyton Manning worked out pretty well, I would say. But Texter says, I'm always kind of excited for new Titans season and optimistic. This goes back to where we started. Is having the youth that they have, is that a good thing? Or are we kidding ourselves and they're going to take their lumps again like they have the last couple of years? Are they spinning their wheels? This texter says, I've never been this optimistic as I am about wide receiver because they have Tate. They've got great hands. Really anything. And that is the prevailing theme, I think, of the optimist here, right? Saleh will improve the defense. And Daboll will take what he's got. It's not going to be earth-shattering, but if they can make a step forward, if you have let's say, the 15th ranked defense, and you have an offense that creeps up and is better than last year, then maybe that gets them to 6 wins.
Yeah. But
we're not asking a whole lot here.
Again, there has to be things that we didn't think was going to happen, happens. That's with any team, whether it be the Washington Commanders of a few years ago. And I know Jaden Daniels wasn't the number one pick, but still he was a top 3 pick. But things within that organization happen that they probably didn't expect to happen. They didn't think Jaden Daniels would pop on the scene. They hoped he would. And then some other things around him. Cliff Kingsbury was his offensive coordinator. So if you're going to draft a quarterback first overall and you're going to pair him with, a second-time head coach, his first year with this team, an offensive coordinator, first year with the team, a young wide receiver that you expect to be your number one pretty soon. If you put all of that together, in that, something has to happen that you didn't think was going to happen in order for, because if you look at it, that's not the greatest recipe to build a team that's going to win now, like today. It happens every so often, but typically teams like that, it takes them years, like a few years to kind of get going. And then that third year, boom, or second year, boom, they pop off. But in order for it to happen the first year, things must happen. One, you can't have no injuries.
And see, the injuries is a big variable.
And then two, somebody has to exceed expectations, or few people have to.
I think we've set the table for what's to come. Tomorrow will be the first time we really have day one of training camp. Of course, Wednesday, they'll be on the practice field. We're excited about that here on DVD. We're going to have great coverage all throughout camp, and it will be brought to you and presented by Tennessee Brew Works, Parman Energy, and the Music City kickoff game. By the way, if you're wondering, what's the Music City kickoff game? That's Ole Miss versus Louisville at Nissan Stadium, September the 6th. Get your tickets today at NashvilleSports.com. We're back to wrap things up, and we're going to talk about something that happened over the weekend. And D-Mace is ready to break it down. LeBron has found a home. I'm sorry to Luke Cornett. The plea, the voicemail to try to get LeBron to come to San Antonio, as funny as it was, it didn't sway LeBron. But he has chosen a new home. We'll talk about it when we come back and wrap up the show. Stay tuned. This is DVD. And we're going to find out if D-Mace can finish strong on his summer pop hits. He's 5 for 6 so far. Can he finish with a bang and go out on a high note? We'll find out in a moment. Back here on DVD. Derek Bass in a deep concentration right now. Trying to finish strong. He missed the first song. It's Guess the Year. We gave him 4 years of summer hits. We have The Boulevard of Broken Dreams. Green Day. What year was it? Was it 2000, 2005, 2011, or 2018? Gosh. In the 6 previous selections, he has gotten 5 correct, including the last 5 in consecutive fashion.
Can I hear that song one more time, please?
He wants to hear a replay.
Gosh, I'm trying to figure out the tone, because tone and beat that puts me in a certain space, and I know, and it puts me as a lot of songs I remember because of movies too.
Yeah. And sometimes that throws you off because the movie might be years later.
This is early 2000s. I know that.
Okay.
This is early 2000s. Is it 05?
Is it 05?
Oh. Okay, 2000. I guess I was wrong then.
It is 2000.
I knew it was early 2000.
That was 2000.
Gosh.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Hold on, Willie, you didn't even know what that was?
Well, I thought wait a minute. I'm not
Play is
doubting.
under review. Hold on.
The play is under
it's
review.
under review.
Because I did send these
It's under review.
myself to Connor Newton.
Is
Let me
it
go
in
back to my
fact
notes.
2005?
After review,
2005.
It is 2005.
It is 2005. He was right.
Yes, baby.
Yes.
Can't get me.
We
Can't
had to
trip
call
me
New
up.
York. Gene Steratore had to reassess, but we're good.
Derek threw the challenge flag.
Yes, I
Not
threw the
every
challenge
referee is
flag.
perfect. I'm sorry.
Hey, I was waiting. Hey, throw that flag. I threw it down on the ground real quick.
Okay.
I'm like Vrabel. I kept it in.
Because
just
Green Day
tossed
goes
it down on
back
ground
to
like
the pre-2000s. They were there in the 1990s. So still going strong in 2005.
I'm trying to
So
remember.
congratulations, teammates. Excellent job.
I'm trying to remember because I heard. I'm sure I heard that song in a movie. That's why I remember a lot of like songs, in particular, especially if I don't listen to the artist. I remember certain songs because I love movies and they're in movies, and then I get to liking the song, but I never really go to the artist. I just like that song.
I'm the same
And that
way.
was one of the. See, he kind of knows what I'm talking about.
Okay. All right.
So
We'll see what the music theme is tomorrow. We have a new one every day on the show here on DVD.
Are we gonna do this tomorrow too?
If you like, who's
That's
in
up
charge?
to you. You got the
D-Mays
Oh, I
has
got
got
the
it
music. I
tomorrow.
thought you were going 2 days in a row.
No, you can bring it.
Okay.
I will get 2 this week, which is something I have not had in a long
Okay.
time.
All right, I'll do it too.
You both get 2 this
All
week.
right.
I only get
will.
one.
I will do what you did today, Willie. I would do tomorrow.
Okay,
Be
multiple
ready.
choice.
Yes.
What year was the song?
Are we just going to make this a week thing?
Oh,
We
maybe.
could.
Because I
maybe.
feel obligated.
I like
if
it.
he's going to do it and you're
I
going
like
to do
it.
it, then I got to do it.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then when Adam comes at, he's gonna have to do it.
He's going to be new to the topic, though.
Absolutely.
We will be seasoned in this. We've had a great day broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We've had a great show. We had Turron Davenport earlier in the show, presented by Bart Durham Injury Law. Tomorrow, the big opening press conference with Mike Borgonzi, with Robert Sala to kick off training camp. Tomorrow's reporting day, and then they're on the field on Wednesday morning. We're all over it here on 102.5 The Game. But there was a huge story in sports over the weekend. LeBron James has picked his new team. Actually, I shouldn't say it's the weekend. I think it might have been Friday where he did this, but he's playing for the Sixers. He is signed with the Sixers. And so that was weird to me to think about him in that uniform and that particular market. They have, LeBron has been in the East for most of his career. Of course, the last few years he's been with the Lakers, but I'm sure there's been many a night where, boy, that crowd has been all over rooting against LeBron. Of course, a lot of those years when he was at his peak, the Sixers were tanking.
Yeah.
And, they were irrelevant. But now he's one of them. And I immediately hearkened back to when the Knicks blew them away in the playoff series. And the Knicks fans overran the building and the Sixers fans were irate. Do you think this will work in Philly?
A lot of it depends on if Joel Embiid stay healthy.
That's a yearly question.
Exactly. Or not necessarily when he stays healthy, is when, not if, it's when he's available to play. If he misses the first half of the season or some games in the first half, but he's there for them for the for the final whatever months, 2 or 3 months into the playoffs, and he's playing well into the playoffs, then okay. But if you're dealing with the Joel Embiid that plays in the first half of the season, then he's injured more times than not in the second half of the season, you go into the playoffs worried about whether Joel Embiid is going to hold up, then they're not going to go far, even with LeBron. I think even having LeBron, the catalyst in all of this, because of Joel Embiid's ability to play both inside and outside, and he is a presence on the defensive end. He is the guy that needs to be healthy. Bron's already showed he's going to be healthy. Tyrese Maxey has already shown he's going to be healthy. Edgecombe had a really good season last year. Obviously, they got Jaylen Brown, who I don't know what Boston was thinking, but it's done and over with. Jaylen Brown is a top 10 player in this league, and he seems to always be available when you need him. He doesn't miss many games, if at all. But everything hinges on whether Joel Embiid can stay healthy. Because with Jaylen Brown, Tyrese Maxey, and LeBron James, and I'm not going to talk about Edgecombe, but with LeBron James, if you have a force like Embiid in the middle that is going to, one, be a matchup problem on the offensive end, and then he can play defense, it's going to be hard for anybody to, in a 7-game series, to beat a healthy Philadelphia 76ers team, especially now that they have LeBron.
All right, I have to read you this text. A unique perspective, a good friend of mine who happens to live in Philly.
See, he has more input than I do.
It's a she, all right?
Oh,
but she is a diehard Cleveland sports fan.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
But she lives in Philly.
I mean, she now works and lives in Philly.
Okay.
So it's a unique perspective when this news story hit. Okay. And so she is one of a kind, okay? And, she's all Browns. She's all Guardians. Like, it's Cleveland all the way. Cavaliers. So, because last time I saw her and talked to her, I was like, do you think LeBron might come back to the Cavs? She's like, I don't know, whatever. So here is the emotional text that I got in light of her being in Philly and learning that LeBron is now going to the Sixers. I don't care that LeBron went somewhere else. And by the way, I hope I hope she doesn't mind me reading this on the air. I think she'll be fine with it. I don't care that LeBron went somewhere else or begrudge him the desire for another ring. But the way he us around for just a few $1 million, no less, is worse than his first and second departures combined. Also, I'm going to use the word screw that guy. And his month-long ego trip, watching everyone line up to slobber all over him. I can't wait till Philly fans boo him the first time he has an average game.
Spoken from a true Cleveland sports person.
Yes.
Wow. But he won y'all a championship. Your first championship
we can't forget
ever.
That. It's the only one. It's the only one in all those years. It's the only one. And she can remember the Ernest Biner game. And the Bernie Kosar and the drive and all that.
So if anybody, LeBron should be forgiven for this. Because he came back and won y'all a championship. So he should be forgiven for that. But
it sets the table.
Yeah, but I get it. Cleveland fans, they probably thought that, we should have the best shot at getting our prodigal son back. Yes, he won us one championship, but he comes back and he can win us another one. We got the players, and they were the number 1 seed, I believe, in the East. Or the number 2 seed.
Well, the Pistons were number 1.
Yeah, Pistons number 2.
And the Cavs beat them.
Yeah, and the Cavs beat them. I think the Cavs may have been 2 or 3. But I'm sure they were looking at it like, man, we got Donovan Mitchell. We got this. Yeah. Brian comes here. Oh, my goodness, we can win another championship.
The idea was maybe if they could get rid of Harden. Harden was the guy for the Cleveland fans that they were not very happy with, right? Because they traded Darius Garland, the Nashvilleian, who was hurt, and they rode the gamble, I guess, of bringing in Harden, who is healthy, but you know what you get with him. A lot of good, but a lot of Can he play with the band? Is he with the band, or has he got his own thing going?
Nah, he had his own thing going.
So I don't know where Cleveland goes from here, or even if it got interesting with LeBron. I don't know what happened. I haven't seen a lot of reporting on it. I don't know. Was there any real traction?
No, I don't think he was ever
He kept
truly.
It kept it quiet where he was going to go.
But I think people speculated that there are several places that he can go. But I mean, I'm excited for a few reasons. I think I'm a Joel Embiid fan. I like Philadelphia as a team. I've always liked them going back to the Dr. J days. They've been that one team that, no matter what, I like the Sixers. They win and I just like them because it seems like they're just that team. But you bring over LeBron and you hope that this is the last straw for this team to actually win a championship, because it's been a long time. They thought they had it when Iverson was there, and Iverson was great, and he led them to an NBA Finals, but they didn't win one. They've had their opportunities. I mean, who hit the corner shot and beat the 76ers that year? Kawhi Leonard hit the corner shot, the improbable shot from the corner.
The Raptors won the whole
thing. And
the
Raptors ended up winning the whole thing. So now Philly fans are looking at it like, man, we finally got an opportunity. And Philly, like New York, for me, I just want them to win. I just want to see a championship in my day. Like when I really paid attention to basketball, I want to see Philly win. I've seen New York win one. I've seen the Pistons, obvious. Lakers, no doubt. I want to see Philly win one.
I wonder how many people in 10 years or so are going to look at the almanac or whatever, online. And
my son's happy.
I was going to ask you about TJ. He's a big LeBron fan. He likes this move.
And here's why I'm even more happier. I can't wait for the schedule to come out, because I don't know if it's true or not, but Nashville is trying to play a few games here with the Memphis Grizzlies, and I'm hoping one of them is the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm praying that it is.
That would be something.
Oh, I'm praying that.
Okay, so in 10 years, how many people will look at a year-by-year champion and go, wait, the Raptors won a championship? They did. All right. Tomorrow, it begins. Titans training camp. We'll break it down for you on the field on Wednesday, but the big press conference. So until then, we've got the big 6 o'clock hour coming up with Connor Newt. So stay tuned for that. The 6 is coming up. The 6 is coming up.
Be loved. Love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful day. I love you. The team loves you. You hear that music? Don't forget about us, because we will not forget about you. We will see you, and you will hear us tomorrow on these airwaves starting at 3 p.m. And as I always say, we're going to be talking, and
you're going to be listening.
Peace. We back. That was a good